in this place. So basically, we're gonna go
unmuted.
trash stuff today. By the way,
Oh, yeah.
guys, that's our main focus is trashing different stuff.
Is it working? Oh, there it is. Okay. For like a tiny second there, the overlay was messing up. Cool. I like this. I like this a lot better than what the Streamlabs one did, or what the OBS Studio was doing. Random start. So just to randomly point in of what's going on. For one, somebody decided to put no you in my chat. I'm just gonna /ban. So before we start this little thing, I literally just started this stream like an idiot. Like, okay, for one, he started before me, and on his side, and I started like an idiot because I forgot to mute my mic, and I was talking, and he was talking, and I'm like, wait, now I sound like I'm just a crazy person. I had to tell from.
I mean, I'm not okay. I'm gonna just mention it because that's basically what we do. So that's like every streamer and YouTuber. They are like they must be crazy people when they're playing alone. They sit in front of a camera, talking with no one.
I mean, it's not really that you're crazy. It happens.
Yeah, but it's like that's the definition of if you talk with yourself, you're crazy. That's the.
But you're not talking with yourself. You're basically mentioning it to like an audience. Like that is going to an audience, but you're not talking with yourself.
But it is kind of talking with yourself.
Not really. I mean, you're directing it towards somebody.
There is no one you're talking with at the moment. So basically,
it's what that it means to. You're technically talking to people who's going to be watching it later. So basically, right now, me and you are crazy because even though we're live streaming, we're technically not doing that.
I mean, we are talking with each other, so we are not crazy because we're not talking.
Well, I'm not really talking to chat. I mean, my little, I can't really say rule, but it's just basically where we won't talk to chat unless it's like in between topics or if they have something good to add. And then randomly we just mention it.
Basic. Yeah.
Anyway. So, okay.
Oh yeah, I never check Nexus sound because I already know his sound is good enough for the stream. Because I'm professional. And for other people to know,
I'm gonna be that guy and maybe check. Also, nice opening, but I might need to check. The audio, I don't know. I won't be able to hear you for a minute, so you know, do your thing.
I open my energy drink.
Probably gonna trash talk me.
This is a thing I do actually. Is having a drink every time I stream. It's loading. It's loading. It's loading, man. So it's not raining.
I don't care, Nissan. Move it on.
That was a.
Oh man, there's no delays on this.
On Discord.
Probably add one.
Like I checked Discord for a second. Raise of it. I'm like, okay. I'm moving on in life. Why does it say that I have a notification somewhere on Discord?
Okay, that's fine.
But I clearly don't.
One over here. You totally heard it. Now I'm going
Cracking an energy drink with the boys.
Okay. It's alright. Here's the deal. This is a podcast. It's starting out terribly. Yay.
As usual.
As usual. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna be editing something on my end on the video side because I just recently switched from OBS Studio to Streamlabs OBS again, so I need to fix that a little bit. But if you want to go and start us off with the first topic, whichever one you want, we can.
We could just start about your favorite topic this far, Nintendo.
Oh boy, this is gonna work out lovely.
Yeah, you love ranting. I love listening to rants.
Here's the deal. I'm kind of needing to add some stuff real fast, so hold up. Play button. Okay, forget it. There's gonna be a slight delay between when we talk on, like, when we talk and when the light shows up on for when we're talking, or whenever it shows like our icons glowing, whatever. Kind of stupid, but whatever. Anyway, for now, to start off with the topic, this is actually a little bit of an older topic, mainly because we're bad at scheduling. Some stuff keeps happening,
Also,
either...
in reality, just mentioning the specific thing we do, and Nintendo in general about this topic would work in general as overall, because they do this a lot. So.
Oh, they do. Even though I was going a little bit off topic, you just sent me back on topic. How dare you?
I'm going off topic. How dare you go on topic again?
Right? What I was trying to say, though, is that we would have mentioned this topic a little bit earlier on, but stuff. We'll just leave it at stuff. So this topic is basically about a... Okay, everybody obviously knows the game Mario. You know the first... Well, not the first one. This is technically the second in this case. Super Mario Bros. It's the first Super Mario Bros. But first was obviously Mario Bros. So, yeah. So anyway, we have basically Super Mario Bros. So basically, there was a fan. I could go to the webpage and look at it, which might want to do that. But essentially, what happened? How many years? Hold on, let me look at this one thing, which we should. Oh my god, it's not right. Planning, everybody, planning. You should do it one day. You should actually learn how to plan, especially if you're doing podcasts. Learn to plan. Okay.
Wait, planning.
Essentially, a programmer, and obviously Mario fan, Zero Page, basically ported from scratch an NES game to the Commodore 64, which no one knows is basically like an older computer type of deal. And what's really what? What are you laughing at?
I wonder how many you're insulting right now, say that they don't know what a Commodore 64 is. Like, yeah, you don't know what it is. It's an older
Not a lot of people do.
Yeah, but you did this.
I'm sure you didn't know.
No one knows what it is. Like,
I said if no one knows what it is. If there's some people who don't know what it is, that's the point. Anyways, they made a port from the Commodore 64, which there are still videos out there. Obviously, you can look at it, see how it was, which was very faithfully remade. And even the glitches, like let's say getting to one of the best glitches, Minus World, which is basically glitching and going into like parallel universes or whatever. I'm not going to get into that. That's a huge other discussion. Point is, all that is there. But you know, Nintendo always jumping in like, oh, that's a fan game. That has our IP in it, Mario. Okay, kill it. Flip the switch. Freaking ban hammer. All the other phrases you can think of to say that Nintendo went out of their way to send probably a DMCA or C&D, cease and desist, either way. And yeah, that happened.
That wouldn't surprise me at all. Like, it was like, was it 2 years ago that Pokemon Uranium got...
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, the moment something gets popular, Nintendo can't... They're like, yeah, this is gonna get better than our main game, so we have to take it down. Like...
Oh, and by the way, it was a DMCA. So, they sent that to the guy who, by the way, think about it in this way. Someone who's just a random fan, just random person, probably doesn't have too much money, but is a very good programmer, that kind of thing. They could just do that. And they make all that really cool. Or it's a team, does that. They don't have a lot of money, but it's like right there. Then they get sent a DMCA, which is like probably hundreds, thousands of dollars of IP damage or copyright infringement damage, stuff like that. And they just sent that out. So imagine someone having to go through that crap. It's just like, all they did was make a fan game. Even games that have nothing to do with blatantly making copies or ports of certain games. They're just like a completely their own style but it has that in it. Nope. Nintendo says no.
Yeah. I mean, there is the thing also with the copyright law, because if you find a loophole in my brain's not working, but if you find a hole in the copyright law, you
Loophole?
can make a, yes, that is what the word is. My brain is not working. But like,
Nice
if
job.
you find something in it, a hole in the copyright law, in this case, you can make a fan game without they be able to touch you, but they also gonna be like, but it's our game. But there's always gonna be that, like, that is why I'm gonna go, because we talked about DMCA. That's why Fortnite could sue, no, not Fortnite, those who made PUBG could, Bluebird or whatever they were called, I don't care what they were called, but PUBG, when they sued Fortnite, was because they could find a hole in the copyright law in Korea, so they could follow that law because they are from Korea. So stuff like that always happens. Like, the moment someone can find some way, but if it's too alike, people are like, yeah, we're gonna take it down.
I mean, yeah, honestly, I don't know. I mean, me, you should probably know, because every time this happens, I either post something or I send something. I'm just like immediately hating on it, just right then and there. Like, I always post something against stuff like this. Just, I never really understand Nintendo's like warpath in that sense. I mean, yes, there is literally a business law that everyone has to follow in this sense, to where, okay, why is this only playing the same? Hold on a minute. Bad jamming.
Planning, guys.
What is this word you speak of?
What is that word?
Oh, I see
just
what
Google,
happened.
I think you could learn stuff.
Anyways, so what was I going off of? I had that idea in my head. Okay,
But like, I get
what was I just saying?
what is it called? Protect your.
Oh yeah, okay. So in a sense, every business or company has to, by law, protect their IP. Otherwise, they are seen unfit as a business. So if you're not out there protecting your IP at all costs, then it's basically like you're not supposed to be a business. They could just shut you down immediately. So in this sense, if Nintendo was getting a bunch of, in this case, like people infringing on their content and everything, then they could just get thrown out. They can just be shut down for that. And it's kind of stupid, but at the same time, that's just how it works. So
I think also it depends on how much it's broken.
I mean, yeah,
Like,
but
it's always that. But also, the thing is, instead of, why are they just? This is a thing that happens a lot when it comes to like hackers and programmers. Is instead of companies actually hiring them, they're trying to take them down. Like,
I mean, yeah, that was basically
good.
gonna be my next point.
Yeah, like, if they can break your game or get through your game, that should be very well protected. Then maybe they are so good that they can go past your old stuff. Like,
that kind of goes back into our last episode's topic of exploits and such, but it's not really the same thing in this sense. It's basically just making a game or doing something like that has nothing to do with breaking one. It's just that I don't know. It's only Nintendo basically doing this. It's only them ever doing anything in that sense. Like, let's say this for example, like with Microsoft and their property of Halo. In this sense, you can make a Halo fan game. They're not gonna care. It's perfectly okay. Everything's perfectly fine with that as long as you don't use any of their assets, which is why a certain something went down back before, because they were using Halo Online assets, which was never released. Therefore, it was illegal. So they just basically told them to stop doing that. course, nothing bad happened, like DMCA or cease and desist. They were just told, don't develop anymore. Just pause your development. And that was that. And nobody was hurt in this. It was just, you were good, just don't do that. And then Nintendo over here, like, oh, that's bad. Lawsuit. It's not really a lawsuit, but it's like, boom.
Give us all your money. Oh, you don't have money? Poor you. Still pay us.
Right, it's basically that. And then you have Sega, where every time somebody makes a Sonic fan game, they're perfectly okay with it. They love it. They love having all these different stuff. But then you go with Nintendo again. Oh, you made a Legend of Zelda thing. No. Oh, you made a fan Pokemon game. No. And here we are. You have a port to... not only do you have a port of Super Mario Brothers, you have a port to a device that basically no one uses. It's a very dead platform. It's just they made it that way because it was a concept, and it was the idea that they could do it. And of course, it took many years to actually fully develop, and it was something a fan just really wanted to do. And instead, they basically trashed all that time just because we need to protect our IP. We need to do that. Yeah. I think you're overprotective there, buddy.
I think in this sense, if he was gonna sue them, he basically could, because it's so dumb sometimes.
I mean, you can't, considering it is Nintendo. They have tons of lawyers, so no matter what, even if you are correct in this, even if Nintendo is wrong completely, doesn't really matter. All those lawyers will basically say, no, you're wrong. No matter what. It's just always that. Plus, at the same time, we're trying to abide by Japan law, and I don't really know too much about Japanese law, but basically it could be completely different in that case. But abide by them.
Yeah, that was, like we said earlier about when PUBG sued Fortnite. They abided by the Korean law, so that's so
South Korean
dumb
law,
because...
to be specific.
Yeah. Yeah,
but
Korean law. I don't care which one. I say Korea because it's simpler. I'm a simple man, okay?
Regardless, it's just the point that that you do, in a sense, follow Japan's law in this sense.
Actually,
which...
not in this case. If he counter-sue them, that follows the law where he is from. Not their laws, his laws.
Yeah, but the whole... that wouldn't entirely make much sense when it comes to a counter sue. When it's a full-on sue to like go down to Nintendo, to them, they're just trying to follow their own law. So you can't just randomly say, hey, we're trying to follow our laws, but then, hey, here comes someone else's laws that apparently broke just because,
I mean, the
whatever.
MCA is not a lawsuit, really, isn't it?
I mean, it's
Isn't
not,
that
but it's just...
But if he sues them on that DMCA...
I mean, DMCA is, in a sense, basically, hey, you did something, like some copyright infringement, pay us for it. In a sense.
Is it Sega also Japanese company?
Yes. But cease and desist would, in a sense, be to, would basically saying to stop, but I don't really know the difference, okay? I don't entirely know the two differences.
I think
Point being...
he has to take it away, and he's not allowed to do anything more with it.
But then, in a sense, that's what the Halo Online thing would have went before, but they didn't get a cease and desist, they just got told to stop, so therefore, it's not the same thing.
It still exists, but they...
I don't know. Point is that it's just there's that, and like you just said, Sega technically is a Japanese company, so where does this follow through?
Yeah, that's the thing though, because if
you have one Japanese company that is perfectly fine when you make fan games, and you have another one that says no.
Different head offices in different countries, like you have the Europe, you have America.
Yeah, but it all follows back through to Japan. You can't just because they're going for one office. Nintendo itself is just a company, but they have offices in different regions. That's just it.
Yeah. But yeah, I think if they sue someone, it goes. I think the suer, that is, if you sue someone in a different country, it follows your law at that time.
I guess, but when it comes down to it, though, I just feel like Nintendo's following the old laws of things, or following the old way that everyone would go down, because if you do think about it, Nintendo's extremely old. They were, what was it, like in the 1800s they were founded?
Yeah, I think 1800, in the end of 1800, I think.
Yeah, like late 1800s, they were a toy company, and then as things developed, they became an electrics company, or electronics, whatever, and then obviously later on went more into the gaming section. But yeah.
Nintendo has always been a big company. That's the thing. They have
Pretty
been
much.
bigger. Yeah, and now when they are like, I wouldn't say the biggest company in the world when it comes to gaming, but they
I'd
are
say that's
really
more Microsoft in a sense,
yeah,
considering.
Microsoft. But that's because they have PCs and consoles.
Also, when you think of rich people, I mean, Bill Gates versus them two, come on. Someone who created a company that was probably more rich, for sure. But yeah. I don't know, but when it comes down to it, I just don't think it's like very stupid with Nintendo, because why always go out of the way just to destroy everything? Just for the hell of it. I mean, I get in some cases it's like, to them, in their sense, it's like, oh, you have this fan game of one of our games, like a port or the exact same game, whatever, and like, oh, you can't make the argument that they're losing money because they can't earn it anyway. The only way they can is, let's say this for example, Super Mario Bros. Is an NES title. They don't make money out of NES titles anymore. The only way they can do that is if you buy in their virtual console versions on the eShop, or if you buy Nintendo Online for the Switch. That's the only way it works, and that's technically not the same thing. So if someone tries to just do this in a sense, play it there, they're not losing any money. They're losing nothing because they wouldn't get anything in the first place if they bought it from their retro store down the street.
Yeah, I would get if they did something harmful to the game, like doing something that could destroy the brand of Nintendo. Then, fine. If it's destroying your brand in some way, making the game look like it's more terrible than it really is, then you're just protecting the brand. But taking down like a fan game because it's a fan game, because it's on your, because it's your mark, then it's like, why? It doesn't hurt you in any way, shape, or form.
Nope. They just do it anyway. No clue why, but hey, that's Nintendo, and they're jerks. But
And
you know what?
that is why no one does fan games from Sony, because no one cares about their games.
I mean, I'm sure there's fan games from Sony.
Yeah, but I think that's the same care. Oh, fine. As long as you don't.
I mean, I'm
destroy
sure
a
there are
brand.
tons of Crash Bandicoot stuff, and which is technically more Sony's thing, considering Naughty Dog's more to them. And then you got, well, okay, there's Naughty Dog than other people, but point is, it's more of a PlayStation thing. Still, people didn't care. It was a thing.
Yeah, there's like, unless it's like I said, damaging the brand of their stuff, I don't think they wouldn't like jump in and be like, oh, you can't do this because it's our game. Like,
Yeah.
nah.
Oh, and you remember, I mean, you obviously know Super Mario 64 Online? Like, you know of that?
Yeah.
Even they were getting crap from Nintendo to get it shut down. Because, like, oh, it's modifying our game, da-da-da. It's like, for one, there are tons of different ROM hacks out there that create a whole new thing or just add little mods to, what is it? Basically to Super Mario 64. But they didn't do a thing about it. I mean, I think they've taken down videos of it because they just don't want people to see, oh, hey, you modified our game or whatever. But it's like they just said to take it down or blocked it, and that was that. But I'm pretty sure Super Mario 64 Online, that was getting a full thing. And all it does is literally just edits the RAM of an emulator, which has nothing to do with Nintendo themselves. It just edits the RAM of that. And that's it. And that's all they do. Which basically forced the creators to change it from that huge name, which I'm not going to mention again because it's long, to Net64. So it's like, why? Oh, and then there was whatever it was called, when they were making fun of No Man's Sky and they called it No Mario Sky, and then it got DMCA'd, so they called it DMCA Sky or No DMCA Sky, something like that. It's just kind of funny.
Yeah, but that's when you're like,
really?
yeah, we don't really care what you're gonna do because we if we wanted to, we would break your company easily by we could take down your servers and everything if we wanted to. Like, that's like messing with them on a new level. But that is what they don't see really, is that if people wanted to harm the company, they will attack the company directly instead of using game. I get it. It's one way to harm them.
That is the thing,
using the
yeah.
game. But the best impact is to hack the servers, because that is where the damage will be done. Or just to release a new character on Smash Ultimate.
I mean, I don't really know. There's a bunch of stuff.
Oh yeah, that I gotta just tell you because it's so funny. Apparently, the same day they released the new update, the DLC for Smash Ultimate, apparently the IT at Nintendo was doing a maintenance on the servers the same time they released the DLC. So people couldn't download the DLC because it was under maintenance.
Wow. That's
Like,
the way to go.
did you plan this out ahead?
Test.
Like, oh, we're gonna release this overpopular thing, now we're gonna make a maintenance at the same time.
Well, I mean, that's basically because they just, like, get destroyed with so many people watching, or so many people, like, getting into it.
Yeah, they would be... Like, Nintendo gets destroyed by people even playing the games, because they have lots of issues.
Yeah, but, again, this is Nintendo we talk about.
Yay, Nintendo!
Well, I think I know a good transition to another Japanese IP we should probably trash.
Is it the Sega time now?
Yeah.
Or the Sega...
Also, I know that's the pronunciation for you, but it's Sega. It even says so in the thing.
Yeah, good for them. But they...
Well, I'm saying it says right there when you start the game. It says Sega. So no, it's not Sega. Now, whatever.
Yeah, but...
Pronunciations. It's like people saying beta and beta. Makes no sense. I don't see another E in there.
I'm gonna get this DMCA now for saying their name.
Totally. I would have gotten tons of DMCAs if that was the case. But anyway.
It's literally from every person you read on the comment section. But
I was saying
the hedgehog.
Yeah, to translate now. Well, we're gonna talk about the Sonic the Hedgehog movie trailer. So first of all, I'm sure you've watched it, right?
Not really, but I basically.
Oh my god.
I've seen enough people talk down on it.
Well, I'm sure you've got plenty of the ideal stuff going. So basically, yeah, we have.
Oh wait, I have seen the trailer when I watched video.
Yeah, besides, I even have the video link sitting there. So, so you can actually see it. So basically, for everyone who has not seen it, let's just say it's kind of a travesty. It's just... So, to basically note, Sonic's design. Back before the trailer came out, we already had a poster with a silhouette of Sonic, and we could basically see from right there, like, this is probably not going to look very good. And people even did, like, little leaks, which some were actually right, and then there were others which is, like, partially, but it's like, It just kept getting worse and worse.
Like,
and then
I even think the Detective Pikachu stuff looks terrible because they look too, like, fluffy. So I'm like,
I mean, that's fine, because they're animals.
Yeah, but it looks too fluffy for being...
I don't know. When it comes down to it, though, Detective Pikachu is insanely better than. I mean, honestly, I
Yeah,
have no problems with that versus like the looks
then,
of.
Then you get Sonic, and you're like, what?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to, if you would not destroy your mic in the time that that I'm doing this, I'm actually gonna pull up a picture of Sonic's design. So let's have fun with that. You can keep talking about it. Oh, I lagged. You can keep talking about it.
Pika.
No, we're talking about Sonic, not Detective Pikachu. Different story.
Eat your mic. I like the comment I got after you told.
Saying your mic is basically
eat your mic.
blowing up at all times.
I mean, I do what I want. I always do what I want.
Yeah, but you should at least fix it.
So yeah, Hedgehog, Sonic.
Well, hold on.
In my opinion, in general, I don't think the movie's gonna be good at all. I mean, even if Jim Carrey is in the movie, I don't. Post. Ouch! That hurt my ear. But like, I like Jim Carrey. He's like a great actor.
So here's for everyone to see on screen. This is just like the worst of way for me to edit this, but there you go. I put it on screen for everyone watching the video version of this. The audio version is gonna be really weird. I haven't even got the third one edited. The point is, but here we go. We have the Sonic design on screen.
Beautiful.
Ouch. Ouch.
Beautiful.
That looks nowhere near like the way Sonic should. So, yeah, just no. So
yeah,
terrible.
like I said, I don't believe the movie's gonna be that good.
I mean, we have that. Like and let me go see if I can find a picture of Jim Carrey in this.
Oh my god. Hey, I can't do it. Yeah. Normally.
Sorry for anyone on my end, him clipping out and using the browser.
Do you see my drawing in the background? That's the best I can do. And I have help with doing that, with like with the website basically.
Okay.
So yeah, again, I don't believe them. I don't, mostly because I feel like they're taking a great character, and that's the thing also. Like, they are trying to make so much live action today, instead of actually focusing.
Yeah,
on,
just
like,
everything's trying to go all live action. It's just like really annoying.
Like,
but
I mean,
so just a note, I just put a picture of both Sonic and Jim Carrey's Robotnik in here. So first to have him like coming in like a black trench coat, I'm gonna guess, which I could find the picture of, but every time I go to search for the picture, Sweet lags out, and I'm trying to get us to talk about this rather than just hearing So you have the worst sound effects. At least mine's more on point. But that sounds nothing like that. You just sound like some random guy trying to. You just sound like some random guy trying to imitate like a bad UFO or aliens or something. Like that's not at all how it works. But anyway, so as I said, I put the picture on screen for having, again, the terrible design of Sonic, and then the Jim Carrey of like a little bit later in the trailer where he pulls off more of the Robotnik style. Because at first it was just him in the black trench coat, which to me looks nothing in a sense like Robotnik. Just nothing at all. It just.
Is it people also making fun of him being skinnier also?
Yeah, then there's this bit of that, and then he shows him in like I'm gonna guess one of his, I'm gonna guess like a jet
robots?
or something, but yeah, it's basically that, and it looks like he has his actual egg chair or whatever you'd call it, and just that in a sense I'd be like, okay, I can kind of get behind this look. It's not too bad of a look. It's not the best, but it's not bad. Then at the end of the trailer, we get this. We get this crazy guy. Like, okay, that is way more closer to what Robotnik looks like. So, kind of props to you there, buddy. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know how I feel about that.
Oh, I got a pip in my ear. It hurt me.
Yeah. Later, I should probably start using studio mode, so it won't, like, pop up until I have it set in the correct position. Looks more professional, but... professional. What is that?
Professional.
What is that?
When it comes to gaming, I'm professional. When it comes to podcast, I'm professional. Wait.
But, yeah, so then it just turns into this. And it's like, that is a very on-point Robotnik. I almost said Eggman, but it'd be better to say Robotnik. Point is, it looks more closer to it. But then you have to think to yourself, like, how does that first look transition all the way to this look?
He grew his mustache. Jeez.
I mean, you could say, because in one part of the movie he has like one of Sonic's quills, and he touches himself with it, and it makes him freak out as if he just got tased. So, I guess he did something there. I don't know. It's just
anything right now.
What? Oh, okay. Of course you would. Of course you'd go nuts. So, we basically have all that going. And at the same time, you have a little gag of, which, to be honest, I like the fact that they use the gag, but at the same time, I'm not too big on it, because it's like, why? Oh, so you're gonna hear a bunch of me deleting stuff because this stupid thing likes to pop up. Be like, oh, you sure want to delete this? Like, yes. They're stupid. Anyway. So it pops up with a random joke in the trailer of like the cop that he's working with basically puts Sonic in a bag, in like a duffel bag, and he just like goes over and just be quiet, and just like goes over there, and I don't know, he's talking about some like it smells like dirty shoes or something. He's like just saying like the smell of it, and it's like weird in there, and then someone's just like, is your kid in the bag? It's like, do you have your kid in that bag? It's like, oh no, it's like, no, this isn't my kid. Well, he is a kid. It's just not mine. It's like, you have another person's kid in your bag? Like, what? Like, okay, that's a good joke. The thing is, I kind of am upset that they threw that in the trailer. Like, yes, they were going for a random joke to reel someone in, but that's the kind of joke you really want to set in the movie, so it's just, like, out of nowhere placed. That's the kind of stuff I like. When it's like, oh, you don't know if it's going to be something funny, like... Let's say the Marvel movies, like let's say for example, Thor Ragnarok. Thought it'd be a super serious movie like the rest of like a bunch of the other MCU was, but then that just sets a playing field to say, hey, there's a lot of comedy that you're not expecting out of nowhere.
In general, it was never serious.
Oh no, it was trying to be serious. It was trying. Like the first and the second one weren't really trying to throw a comedic point in. Yeah, there were a few jokes thrown here and there, but it was never that like comedic theme.
To be honest, I felt like they were more comedic side than the rest.
I kind of felt like Iron Man was more of that, but I'm saying like with Thor, just like there was a less comedic theme just like between the first two, and then the third one comes out, Ragnarok, and then there's all that. So, in a sense, I'd kind of prefer if the Sonic trailer did some closer to that. But it's just like, oh, it seems like, oh, there's maybe a few jokes in there, which is, I guess, what it did, but it's going to be like kind of funny in it. I mean, we don't know how the movie's actually going to turn out, but yeah. But as another point of news, which I don't know if you know, I've already mentioned it myself, but I don't know if you read up on it or you saw me say it. But basically, the creators of the movie have heard everybody's feedback, and they are going to be redoing Sonic's design. Which, for some people, that'd be a hooray! Good, that's better. In some ways, yes, it is, but in other ways, it's really not. It is really not a good thing that they're redoing it.
I want to point in something. I watched, was it today I watched the video? I think it was today. about he mentioned that he thinks it's a plot. Like everything was a business plot all along. They made a terrible character.
That's just how it is. It's always somebody roping in conspiracies or something like, oh, they did this on purpose. Oh, they're doing it
Like,
just for a
and then
product.
they actually meant to
Marketing.
make it bad so they could then make it good after. Like, why?
To be honest, that in a way
that feels
that
like
is good marketing, but at the same time, it's also bad marketing. Like, it's not that it's good marketing; it's the fact that in a way, it's like a strategy to throw out that just makes you do that, I guess. But kind of feels like that's bad marketing. It's like, oh hey, you got this, and it's like, nah, screw it, you got this. But regardless,
like, yeah. So,
I don't know. It's just really
this is like
stupid.
seeing every game trailer, but they actually do it reverse. Like, oh, this is how good it looks. Then when you buy the game, it's like 10 times worse. And you're like, was it the graphic better? Didn't you actually see the shadows?
Yeah, it's basically how that works. But I don't know. In a sense, it's basically with them remaking Sonic's design. In a sense, that's good for us for the point of saying we get something that looks better. But at the same time, it's bad because you don't know how that's gonna play out. You don't know if whoever's doing it, was it Warner Brothers or something? I don't know. Paramount, I think. I think it's Paramount.
Paramount did it.
But it's pretty much that basically they're probably going to be overworking the people that actually create this because they've already launched the trailer, so their deadline is much closer than when they started the design of Sonic. Sure, they don't have to start by scratch.
They don't really care if they actually push it for if they postpone the movie because.
I mean, yeah, that's what the people say, but it's not. That's kind of not how business works. Like, if you set a date, you're more than likely going to have that date regardless of what people tell you. Even if people tell you, hey, you can postpone it, we're fine. They don't really care.
That is why Rockstar is so great, because they don't like, oh, you want a game? Yeah, you have to wait 2 years, because we have to postpone it every year, because we want it to be...
Sucks for them, because most of the games that they make is actually very, very broken and terrible as it is. So,
I mean,
no thanks.
GTA is great. Red Dead Redemption is great. And then you get their online mode, and you're like, you made set 2 years making.
Trust me, both Red Dead and GTA had very, very broken starts when they just randomly came about.
I mean,
the second was
every game
broken,
is gonna be
but
broken.
not how it used to be. That's for sure.
Gonna know it's gonna happen because, I mean, that is always gonna be issues. So.
Well, not if you sit there and plan it right, if you actually have the right type of testers, which most of the time they don't, because they don't really check for that kind of crap. But regardless, though, and most of the time they don't have actual betas that are actually correct. They just have something completely different, like, oh hey, we have this beta, now we're going to completely change the formula and expect it to work fine. Anyway, back to the Sonic point, is that they're basically just going to be overworking a lot of this, and it's basically going to feel like it's rushed because they have that set date, and more than likely they're not going to push the date back. And if they do, then that's going to help, and they're most likely not going to be rushed. But it's just the fact that more than likely a lot of people are just going to be overworked, even though I'm sure they don't have to redo the whole design. All they have to mainly do is get like a mesh model of what they originally had already, and then just fix it up a little bit. Like, probably take away the face and then redo the face, which, yes, does take a lot of time to do. It really does. But
yeah.
it's a lot faster than when they started. And then they could just fix a few other things.
I think the rest is decently anyway, so, I mean,
I'm not really sure what type of modeling they're using. 'Cause, you know, with CGI, it's like, or just like models, is like 3 different types. They've got polygons, squares, and triangles.
It's gonna, if you go on how he looks, it's so hard to do that in like looking realistic, because first of all,
I mean, it's not really, because a lot of people have like already remade it in their own fashion. It's like, oh hey, look, this be fine. And besides, we don't really want super realistic. We don't be like, oh hey, we want him to look like a real thing. You can make him a little animated. It's fine.
It's
perfectly
they should make
fine.
him a real hedgehog.
Freaking Space Jam that shit, man. Just freaking have it all animated and then just go for it. Come
Oh
on.
my god. That would be. I miss that kind of movie when they like just mix in a cartoon with freaking
Cartoon
live
with
action.
real life. Like, do that. Who cares?
I mean,
Or whatever the other ones was.
That must look insane about what we talked about earlier. People talking with themselves streamers, but doing live action with cartoon.
It's even worse when
Michael
they
Jordan
actually
stuff.
have. It's even funnier when it's just like, oh yeah, you have the cartoon version, and then like they meet someone like off the streets that is actually the real voice actor just walking around. So it's just like, oh hey, they're talking to each other. That's creepy. But yeah. But regardless though, it's just that I don't know. It doesn't really matter if Sonic looks super realistic. You can make him a little animated. We're not gonna care. We would just like, if you're gonna make a live action movie, make it
I
good.
mean, it's not like
we
the
want
Genie
things to
from
look
Aladdin.
kind of nice, and we want things to pan out correctly. Sure, we don't need a canon story. Mix it up a little bit, but don't just half-ass it. Just do it in a
mean,
good way.
There's have always been issues. People either they want it to be perfect, everything should be perfect, or they can make it funny, but there's no bit in between. Like, oh, you can do it
Yeah.
a little bit perfect, but not too much, and
That's
and
another thing, in a sense. Like, a lot of people try to throw comedy into the mix, and they overdo it. I mean, there is a certain mix of comedy that you should put into things. Like, I'm not going to spoil, obviously. I'm just going to mention in-game as an example. I'm not going to spoil at all here.
yeah,
but I'm
because
just
you do
saying...
have to keep, you know.
I know, because you haven't seen it. But I'm saying I'm not at all going to spoil in-game. All I'm saying is that in this sense, I felt like the comedy in that movie was perfectly balanced with the seriousness and dread in, like, the aftermaths of Infinity War and everything else. Like, that much
Isn't-
is just, like, it is perfectly mixed, in my
Coming
opinion.
out, but Spider-Man: Homecoming, that one
You're
comedy
like,
in that. If we talk about balance, it was a little bit too much comedy instead of both the seriousness and
well, that's the thing about Spider-Man. His character was meant for comedy because it's all about his quips. That is all that it was mainly about in the first place. So yeah, having comedy in that totally makes sense.
yeah, but having it only comedy can sometimes become too much again.
I mean, not really. You don't need it to be action serious in this sense because, like I said, it is Spider-Man's character. That's just how it's built upon to have that much
I
comedy.
still prefer the old Spider-Man from the 2000.
Maguire?
2000. I don't remember what
Tobey
his name
Maguire?
was.
It was the first three Spider-Mans. That
Yeah,
sense.
that one. I prefer that one.
The
But it's,
Sony Pictures
that's
version,
yeah.
I guess.
But I think Sony Pictures made this one too, actually.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm saying in a sense it's... I'm saying there's a different type of deal for me. There's like that one, then there's the Amazing Spider-Man ones, then there's the MCU Spider-Man. So we have three different versions in this case. But
I prefer the old one and the new one. The Amazing Spider-Man is meh.
you just keep breaking
Like,
that mic.
one. Yes, I do what I want. You're not my dad.
Well, when it's a podcast, it'd be nice to actually for it to sound nice. Make it sound nice. Don't just throw random sound effects in there to make it unwatchable.
I do what I want, okay?
I could just mute you, you know. I can have this podcast by
Yeah.
myself. Mm.
Yeah, and then and you're definitely gonna not sound crazy. Then sitting talking with.
People do it all the time. But I'm just saying in general that in that sense, when it comes to those, I don't know. When it comes to the MCU Spider-Man, I definitely prefer, and obviously because they didn't throw an origin story in there. Because that just like is the most annoying thing about Spider-Man in a sense, is that everybody always wants to go, oh, what was his origin? Let's redo that. Let's redo him becoming Spider-Man. Like, no one cares. We've seen it already. We've seen it in the shows. We've seen it in the comics. We've seen it in the Tobey Maguire movies. You don't need to make more. So then the MCU rolls along. There isn't exactly a origin story. The most origin story you get is his main suit. That's it.
That and his tells what happened to, was it Ned? what's his name? Ned. I don't remember the kid's name.
Well, yeah,
But
that's his friend Ned, but that really isn't much of an
yeah,
origin set in.
you all it says is like, oh, I got bit by a spider. Like that's that and
I
the
mean
serious
that's just like that's just tiny exposition, which is perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine to have a little bit of exposition, just mainly say, oh, how'd you get your powers? Like, I was bit by a spider. Like, that was it. Like, okay, cool, we're good here, we're fine. That's all you need to know, and everyone gets it. Like, oh, radioactive spider, he bit. Cool, he got powers. Sweet.
And that's good also because those who hasn't read or seen the old movies is gonna be like, how did he get it? And like that explains a lot of it. And
It's a thing.
if you have not seen, at least watch the Amazing Spider-Man in this case if you wanna know.
I just say
kind
watch the
of
Tobey
more-
Maguire. I mean, you don't really need to watch the Amazing Spider-Man because they throw everything out of comic base. I mean, it's not comic related when it comes to the first ones, but at least you get something a little better. Anyways, back to the main topic. We're not even anywhere close to Spider-Man. We're off to Sonic. We were on Sonic. So let's go back to that and the travesty that is. So again, not the greatest design of Sonic, which is getting remade, which hopefully goes well and people aren't getting overworked for it, because that happens a lot in the industry. So let's just hope that doesn't happen. And then we have Jim Carrey, which to me I think is kind of a good cast, because you don't really, in the games, all he was just, oh, maniacal genius, ha ha ha, that, and like, you can't really have that in a movie setting. You need some type of flavor or taste to the actual character, and in this sense, Jim Carrey can bring that. Which, yeah, there's probably better other actors that would also fill the role pretty nicely, but I still think Carrey could do pretty nice. Then again, a lot of people are probably just like, oh, we just want Ace Ventura in here, haha. Like, yeah, okay, have your fit, but it's just we have him, and it's like,
like I said earlier, also, I don't think the movie's gonna be good at all. Anyways, I'm gonna think it's gonna be decent, but it's not gonna be like, oh, it's gonna be a great movie. It's gonna be like a decent movie.
For me, I mean, right? I mean, again, this is the first trailer, so it's not a very good bias in this sense. It's the very first trailer. We don't really know what's gonna happen or how it's gonna go down. A lot of things could change from here to there, because a lot of movies have, and we've had a very slow roll from here to there. So, unlike a lot of other movies, so yeah, a lot of things can change. But when it comes down to it, I think that if the kind of theme still kind of sticks, if it doesn't change too much, which I'm sure it will, I just think that this movie is going to be, in a way, funny, but, like, because of its errors. Like, I think we're just going to laugh at it because of the type of errors and faults that it has. So we don't necessarily have to...
I think that is the thing. The comedy, I think the comedy is gonna be great. That's the thing. But it's the whole story as a whole that I wanna have.
Yeah, is the story gonna go well? Because the trailer, it doesn't really specify the story. Basically, it's just, which I think there is a synopsis somewhere that someone can read, but I don't. There's no point in looking that up right now. But it's just like basically of Sonic appearing in the world, which, by the way, apparently rings are portals. So apparently we just got all Doctor Strange up in here. So apparently we have Doctor Strange rings of these portals. So we have that, and I'm guessing basically Sonic had that way where he came to the world that we all mainly know. So it came from, I think it's called Mobius is his world's name, and it goes to, ours in this sense. Meets a cop, and then...
Isn't there, I think if you go back and read the origin story of Sonic, I think you get what the name is.
Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Mobius. I'm just going off a name. I'm not going to look it up. But I'm saying that I'm going off of what I think. Point is, it's just, I'm pretty sure it's Mobius, and that he meets the cop, and they have to save the world or something, I guess. It's like a buddy cop relationship in that sense, which I kind of think would be kind of cool in this sense, because that's something not a lot of people kind of mix on these days, is having like that kind of sense of like cop and friend type of deal. I mean, of course they have cops that are friends and like go do crap, but I don't know, just some kind of different thing. Point is, we have that saving the world thing, and from what though? That's the question. because you just have basically, because Sonic is different, the military is gonna hunt him. That's that. And then you have Robotnik over there doing his thing, which what is? It's just there is this crazy hedgehog who can run around. Must experiment. And then of course, you know, in the games and everything, he puts animals inside of robots to control them, and that's that. So
And no one cares about that, but they care about the hedgehog that is like running around and talking. But they don't care about the crazy scientist building robots.
well, they already think he's a little nuts in the trailer. That's stated that they think he's pretty nuts, but they're like, oh, he could definitely help us in this case. You know, they just go for that.
Yeah, perfect idea.
I mean, I'm sure he didn't get around to making robots with animals yet. I don't think they've done that yet. But it's just the point that that's... Yeah, it's probably going to be a later thing. But I don't know. I just hope we don't have like a Last Airbender in this case. I mentioned that because that's like from a type of media to live action that did not go well. And of course, yeah, they're probably going to be redoing another one, which I think that has been stated they're going to do another one of those. But they're going to try to do better. So, whatever.
Are they gonna continue from the last Airbender then? Continue the
I don't
Earth?
know. I think they're either going to do Earth or they're going to reboot it and go from water again and just redo that movie. But all I do know is that we don't need an example from that, from the original Last Airbender, which was a bad deal. Or in another example, from Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Evolution, which was again very bad deal. Especially that movie, because the creators had no freaking idea what Dragon Ball was even about. They had a lot of things wrong, but we'll get into that some other day.
I mean, it's just collecting some balls.
It's a deeper story than that.
Literally.
It's a deeper story than that. But it's the point that they got a lot of
and
stuff wrong.
touching people around, apparently, because...
No. Well, okay. It's just the point
If
that...
you go on the original Dragon Ball, Goku was a bit innocent.
Well,
And then
yeah,
you
there's
have the
that
old
bit,
man.
but I mean, we're not going to put that in the live action, but it's the point that they just had a lot of stuff wrong in that sense. But I'm just hoping we don't get that kind of sense when it comes to Sonic, and the deal that they're going to throw him in a different direction that just makes no sense. Sure, Sonic, in a way, kind of doesn't have a character. I mean, he's just a guy who likes to run around, does like to save the world, and is a little bit quippy. He has some clips here and there. Not
like,
a big
I'm
one.
bored, I'm gonna go save a world or something, you know?
Like, I'm bored, I'm gonna go run around the planet a couple times. Which, you know, can take a while for him. He's not that fast. He is fast, but, like, speed of sound wise.
It's
not a big thing.
I cut my thumb!
I mean, that's what? Mach 1.1? Am I right about that? I don't know, it's like Mach 1.1 or something. At about some... So that's basically you can break speed of sound somewhere on there. Maybe it's Mach 2, 3? I don't know. It's been a while. Maybe it's Mach 3. I don't know. Point is, that basically speed of sound, it's not too big in the scale against like basically other supernatural things, like say Superman or something like that. They could obviously go faster. But it's the point to say that just hope they don't throw the character off too much. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not really much else we can...
Too much about ranting about the ugly hedgehog, so...
I mean, we can that's what I'm saying. I mean, we can go ahead and pen that off now. I'm saying that, in a sense, that's just kind of a thing.
We have bullied the hedgehog enough now.
Yeah.
Think about his feelings. If he has it.
Yeah. I'm trying to add the freaking list and it's breaking on me. Here, you can see this bit.
I don't know. I'm bleed.
Okay. So, what do you want our next topic to be then?
We have done 2 out of 5 we can't do. Which 2 do we have left except
we can... Okay.
So...
We can talk about the... Well, technically we have 3 we have highlighted. So...
Yeah, but we have like 2 we can talk about because we already know which one we're gonna do. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think we can take what games are we looking forward to this year because as two morons, we don't know what games are coming out this year.
I mean, I already compiled a list for myself of some games that I'm definitely excited for.
Yeah,
and I could just mention them, and you can obviously go along with, oh hey, yeah, me too, or I don't know what the hell that is, or nah.
Yeah. But we can start with again we talked about last time we had a podcast. I think it was last time, or was it the time before? No, it was last time. That was 2 weeks ago. Was it right after like this Fallen Order, the Star Wars Fallen Order? We kind of briefly talked about what we're gonna think, but I think we can go more deeply into what we think and what we hope about it. Like,
well, I mean, we basically already talked about it more of what we hope. I mean, in a sense, I'm hoping and it's sort of close to The Force Unleashed, but different. Because, yeah, The Force Unleashed was great, but there were parts of it that just feel dated. It doesn't feel correct in this sort of sense of trying to drive a narrative. Because in Force Unleashed, the main point was, oh, hey, there's a Jedi, go kill that. Or, hey, here's an enemy we want to go take down, go kill that. That was basically its sense. And then we have...
Well, I've read somewhere it's an open world. So is it going to be it's like...
Well, that, yeah, maybe, but...
Is it going to be like Knights of the Old Republic then? Like, because that was kind of an open world with like...
I'm pretty sure that's kind of what they were going for, in a sense. I mean, it is Respawn making it.
I would like that kind of thing though, instead of like too much. I want to unleash.
I imagine it's not gonna be.
Idea, but I mean, also that it's gonna be open world because that's.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think it's gonna be fully open world. I think it's obviously gonna be limited open world, in the sense that it's a big place you can just go around in. But it's nothing on scales of, say, GTA, Red Dead, or Breath of the Wild, or stuff like that. Yeah. It's not that type of open world. It's in a sense open world of, say, for example, like another Respawn game, Titanfall 2, anyway. Like, that's not open world, but it's like, there's an openness to it, in a sense. Like, because, I don't know, it's not really open, it's linear. So,
it's like, you can run certain ways instead of... Yeah, you have to run this path to get to the goal. You can run like maybe this little path. Sometimes
that's the thing with Fallen Order, because I'm sure it's going to be a linear path, like a linear story. I don't really know if they're going to take any alternate routes or anything, but it's a possibility.
But that's going to be That's going to be perfect. Then we mentioned another game. I totally forgotten right now. What was that game? We had Fallen Order and then we talked about another game.
Well, here, I got the games right here. I could just mention them. You act like the games I'm gonna mention, like, nah, no point mentioning those, I'll go off memory. Kinda have a list for a reason. Here, I'll just mention another game. Your day sucked. Anyway.
We sucked.
Yeah. Back in your day, you sucked. Anyways, so off to my point here. I'm switching up this song because it just sounds freaking staticky as hell, and I'm sure that's the point of the song. Did I pause it? Oh no, it's lowered. Song. Okay, so another game to be randomly looking forward to. Yeah, I don't have a Switch. We don't have Switches. But I would definitely enjoy...
Shield and Sword.
That just sounds weird backwards. Sword and Shield, my friend.
No, because H comes before W. Shield and Sword. That's how you say it then.
You don't always do it the letter that comes before. You do it sometimes when it sounds right. Shield and Sword. Sword and Shield. Sword and Shield sounds better. Therefore, we're going with it.
Yeah.
Point is that with... besides, that's actually the order it does go in. Sword, Shield. That is the actual order.
Don't care, I'm gonna buy both games anyway.
I wouldn't. I'm probably not gonna buy both games because I don't really believe in buying both of the same generation.
It's mostly because I want to try both legendaries without to trade them. And also because I want to catch everything from both sides.
I don't know, but again, we don't have Switches. It's more likely he's gonna be getting one rather than me because I don't have money to begin with, and honestly, I'd rather buy computer parts rather than buying a Switch, because that feels like it's more worth it.
Is it though? Is it really?
It honestly is.
I mean, you can play a proper way of playing Breath of the Wild.
If I had the computer parts, I can play Breath of the Wild better than the Switch ever could. So
Yes, and then that's gonna be DMCA'd by Nintendo. In the end.
no, it's an emulator. There's no point in doing that. Emulators are free reign.
Yeah.
It's the point of how you get the games, and you can dump Breath of the Wild from a Wii U. So,
Oh.
So you can dump it from there, perfectly legal.
Yeah, but back to the thing. Yeah, I think Pokemon Shield and Sword is gonna be perfect.
Sure. But I mean, I don't know. In my sense, like, I was in a way excited when the whole Let's Go Eevee, Picture and Eevee thing was going, because just that style formatted into that look. Which again, yes, it was basically just a Pokemon Go clone. And except different, like, you know, in a sense the mechanics were the same of, hey, throw a Pokeball at a thing, catch, that's that. Like, there were no fighting unless you went to trainer battles. Then you had actual trainer battles. But in this sense, I don't know, it's just like you throw that type of art style, that really good cell shading, I guess, but like that into a real Pokemon game, it's like, that's just gonna look great. So that's the main thing I'd be excited about. It's going to look great. New Pokemon games are obviously going to be great. And yeah. Just, I don't have a Switch,
But then
so.
I think it's going to be a lot of down as usual. Like,
A lot of what?
I mean, like with every Pokemon game, there's always downside.
I mean, yeah, it's always going to be everything.
Yeah. And what sort of professor are we going to have? We're going to have that, like, oh, here, have a Pokemon. Also, I don't remember. Are you a boy or a girl? Because, you know, I'm a little... Because I can't tell the difference between a boy
the
and a
real
girl.
question is... what, Hold on. The real question is... yeah, like I said, what's the professor gonna be? Because what other wood do we have left? I mean, we've had oak, we've had birch, we've had elm, we've had basically every other wood you could think of, other than a couple few.
Is a wood.
Hey, that's the most.
Yeah. I mean, you have acacia.
Except a tree. Have we had a Professor Acacia? I'm like, we have.
No.
It
no,
probably. I mean, okay. Besides, the game is also based around a UK setting, in a sense.
So, Professor Ben.
I wouldn't say so.
I mean, that would be a perfect joke on everything, like Ben. Professor Ben. Just because it's Big Ben.
Oh, by the way, Acacia
UK.
is already one.
And who's that?
I think it says it's of the Xeno region.
That's Yen 4. I think. I've not played Yen 4 or Yen 2. Elm is Yen 3.
Region Xeno, trainer class, professor, generation 7. I think, or generation, what is that thing? Generation what?
It can't be Yen 6 because he wasn't called Acacia.
Generation Z.
Generation Z.
I see. That's not a thing. Technically, it is available. I just searched up Professor Acacia. That is a fan generation, so still available.
Don't talk about it. Nintendo will.
Hey, Nintendo is probably already gonna make that a name, so it's gonna get retconned anyway. So who cares? Point being, now it's just the point that we have to think about that, and we've talked about it before when we were mentioning when it was announced, but yeah, the starters. I'm just wondering how the rest of the region's gonna play out in new Pokemon, because most of the time they don't really do very well in some of them. Some are kind of weird. Like, I don't know, some of the latest ones, they're just
Yeah.
like, they're just running out of ideas, which can't blame. They've already thrown a bunch out there.
I mean,
So-
they literally have a keychain as a Pokemon.
I mean, you Nintendo, but you know, you need something different here. So,
Like, so a new Pokemon, I have an idea. A keychain. Anyone with me?
I mean, unknown was a little close, but not exactly. But
Yeah, but
point
that's
is,
like more of a thing that is my like.
it's like
it meant-
eyeballs, but
Yeah, it's like it meant to be letters. That's the alphabet. Literally the alphabet.
I guess. But seriously, when it comes down to it, though, it's just like you have to think about the other designs, and at the same time, like I said, the starters. I still think Score Bunny is kind of cute. So yeah, screw you.
Something's wrong with you.
How
I'm
is
gonna
it
go with
not?
word
though?
starter. That I don't remember the name because I have not checked the name.
Sobble or
Too much because I forgot about the game.
Sobble,
Sobble.
I guess. But yeah. All right, stop. Point is, sure, that's his name, but there's nothing wrong with me in the sense that I think Score Bunny is cute. So
Yes, it is.
no,
You
there's
have enough bunnies in this game.
so
And you
what?
don't need more.
It's a different
bunnies.
type. Probably not
It's still
actually.
a bunny.
I was like, probably not a different type because everybody's afraid it's gonna be another firefighting. Because
Probably
everybody's
gonna be a
really,
firefighting.
everybody's just getting really worried about. They're like, no, we don't need another firefight. We have too many of those. Like, you're right.
If they was gonna do a firefight with a bunny, couldn't they do that like in 10 or something? Because
Then we have what's the grass one called? Grookey? Or is that another one I'm thinking of?
the Granky group.
Grookey.
I don't care. It's a freaking monkey, and that we also have enough of. No, wait. We have I think 4 different monkey pumps now. We have Apom, we have Mankey, we have technically the evolution of 2.
Okay. Yeah, Grookey is the grass. Score Bunny is obviously fire, and then Sobble, or I'm just gonna Sobble, is the water. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I can see where it come from on the cuteness on basically all 3 of them, really. But I don't know.
I don't see Grookey being cute anyway because I don't know. If it's man, can be because I basically hate grass types anyways when it comes to starters.
See, that's just being biased. We're talking about looks here, not what they can do. Nothing about what they can do or anything like that. It's like the way they look and the way they act.
Have you seen how cute Piplup is?
Mm.
Still a terrible Pokemon.
So, you're the one who said in our Pokemon like playthrough in Revolution, like, oh, I want a cute Pokemon team. Not a good Pokemon team, a cute one. So
Yeah.
you're kind of breaking yourself, except for the Onyx. I don't know how the hell that fits in your cute spectrum, but okay.
Hey, it's yeah. If it fits in a boat,
Unironically
it's
cute. How about that?
It's gotta be a cute Pokemon if it fits in a boat.
An unironically cute Pokemon, Onyx. But I don't know.
I mean, I just
but-
add it because it's a good Pokemon. Also, it's because I'm not bothered to level up everything that's cute. Because, terrible.
so,
And I have a Gloom, and they are not cute either, so...
But with Pokemon out of the way, because that's another thing. Here's a few other games that I can go for. Have you seen the stuff about Control? About that game?
What?
Control, like, okay, you know the Alan Wake games?
Oh,
Yeah, it's the
I
same
have not
creator.
seen anything about it.
It's pretty
Because
good. I mean, it's basically about, I don't look at any story-wise stuff, but it looks like it's about a woman who has like telekinetic powers in a sense. Like I don't know, it's just like all kind of fun. And to me, I figure it'd be good. Plus, it's by Remedy. I think that's their name, Remedy Entertainment, and that's people who made Alan Wake. And to me, I thought the first Alan Wake was great. Second one, not so much, but it was an arcade game.
So
I'm just saying, you don't have to play it to get my ideas. I'm just sharing my opinions here. And none to do with you.
Opinions? What is this?
What is this nonsense? Bash him immediately for having opinions. But seriously, I'm just saying though, because like I said, I think Alan Wake was a very good game, very good story. I just feel like that Control, yeah, it's a new IP. We all wanted a true Alan Wake sequel. they said they might be open for that after Control, but it's just the point that I feel like Control would be really good. It does seem like it would be pretty nice. So definitely into that.
I've only seen like pictures of, but I've not watched a trailer because, you know me, I watch stuff. Oh, did I watch a trailer of Control? Don't remember.
Probably the E3 one. But another one which there's no words for me to explain why. Doom Eternal. No words. I don't need to explain it.
Is it a new Doom game?
It's a sequel to the 2016 Doom.
Yeah, I got that, but seriously, why?
Because it is Doom. And besides, that 2016 Doom was really good. I mean, yeah, I haven't beaten it yet, because this is me we're talking about. I don't beat games very often, but because I keep switching to new ones. But it's the fact that it was very good, and it had the perfect, style of the first Doom, but modernized in a perfectly good way. Way better than the third one. But
yeah.
And then we have Eternal.
That's now doing now they are just going on the brand instead of actually.
I mean, if they were going off the brand, that would be Doom 3. That was off of the brand because they just went like, oh hey, it's Doom, but it's a different genre. They went into a more horror and slow-paced action type of deal. That was going off the brand. But then we have Doom 4 goes back to its roots and going into the core gameplay mechanics of fast-paced action, trying to kill everything in sight type of deal. And this one is more modernized in that sense, so it just sticks to that. Also, the no camping policy, which is, you don't regenerate health, and you don't pick, you can't reload. It's just all one clip. So you can just pick up stuff off the ground or when you kill an enemy. So, same difference. But
my brain just zoned out for a bit. I heard everything, but I started thinking about
just in one ear, out the other.
Is this still talking about Doom?
I mean, it's a good game. It's awesome.
Yeah, give me all your information and test it because
I'm just saying, it is a good game, and it's definitely worth.
So
I still feel like Eternal's
going to go in beating it then? It's so good.
What'd I just say? I'm terrible at beating games because I keep getting new ones that I want to try. That doesn't mean I don't beat games, because I do. It's just the point that I got another game shortly after I got Doom, so I didn't focus on it as much. But I do go back to it every now and then just to do that, and besides, it is kind of hard because it's Doom. So. Plus, I have it on 2 different consoles, or platforms. I have it on the Xbox and on PC. Just kind of want to see where I can go there. But anyway, as for other games, about The Outer Worlds. Have you seen the trailer for that? It's like a Fallout-style game. Pretty sure?
No, I didn't say that either.
Yeah, it's like a space exploration type of Fallout deal, which I don't know if they were going with a No Man's Sky thing of, oh, go to this planet, that thing, but it's not like that.
But they try to
resource gathering, bleh.
Put in the Fallout ID or something.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Fallout idea of NPCs or in that kind of sense, and exploration, huge area to go forth with. I don't really know the full way it works because I've only watched a couple trailers and I read a little bit out of a Game Informer because I wanted to read about it, obviously, and I do get those. So, and to me, I feel like it would be that's definitely gonna be pretty good because, yeah, I'm not too big of a Fallout fan, but that's just because, in a sense, the theme never interested me. Like, oh, nuclear explosion. Oh, face against nuclear, radiated enemies. Like, that doesn't really get to me as much. Like, there's no core story that I really want to go towards. Like, Fallout 4 was not so bad, I guess, in story aspect. It gets kind of bleh near the end. New Vegas was, to me, the best of because, hell, it was Obsidian who made that.
A lot of people said New Vegas is great when it comes to Fallout.
Well, like I said, it's because Obsidian made it. Because it was a different developer. So, it just kind of went better.
The moment the logo of Bethesda is on a game,
Well, anything Bethesda produces turns to shit most of the time. So, you know.
You have Skyrim That's a great game, but that you get all the good game, but
Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, I feel like Outer Worlds would be a good one. We don't know too much about it. I mean, there has been a trailer out which people can go watch, but I haven't watched it recently to get back into my head about it.
yeah, I haven't watched anything.
Another one, in my sense, Dying Light 2, which announced a while ago. There hasn't been much news about it, but
wait, Dying Light, what is that? I feel like I should know what it is, but I don't.
yeah,
remember.
it's like the first Dying Light was, you know, you get you're like a government agent and you were parachuted
Yeah, I've
into.
not played it.
Well, I'm explaining it to you, so you kind of get the gist. But like you parachute down into like an infected city or country, I guess. I think it's just city. I don't know. It's like you get basically parachute down into that, and you have to find like what is it? You have to like get this file from somebody. But regardless, it's just a whole thing about a zombie survival type of deal. You can craft a few things like certain type of weapons or whatever. Other deals, and it has this whole aspect of fearing the night. Like every time it turns to nighttime, zombies get way more powerful, and you get a like way more power. Basically, they get like more strong, more fast, all this other stuff. And there's a different type of night zombie that you basically have to run away from because you're most likely not going to kill them right away, unless you have a group of people. But and also it emphasizes a little bit on parkour. So, yeah, that's parkour mechanics.
Yes, we are so great at that.
Yeah, we're the best. So there's that. Dying Light 2, in a sense, is going to be a little bit different, I think. Obviously, there's going to be zombies. But it's like this whole... It seemed a little bit more steampunk the more I looked at it. But... And I'm pretty sure it takes place after the first game because I'm pretty sure the main character's still in it. But it has more of an alternate path type of deal. It's less linear. What's the opposite of linear?
It's gonna be
What's that word?
like if you choose your own adventures kind of thing.
Kind of. Like there's a, for example, there's this thing about there's this like group of people trying to attack. What is it? They're trying to take down something, I think, and basically you can either kill them, and that's not a thing anymore, but some other thing happens, like there's a consequence to it, and then probably like they're after you and all this other stuff, or you can join them, and then it's like you can take over the place and make it different. So it's just like it's all choosing your path in a sense to what you can do. So in a way, I'd be excited to see how that would go.
So it's gonna be like a multi-ending game too. It starts to become a lot of those games lately.
Like, it's kind of like a inspired thing. I mean, of course, Telltale mainly did that. Then other games picked up on it. Then Telltale died because they spread themselves too far. But you know, all that stuff happened, and now we have games that are trying to implement that more. Of course, Black Ops 2 did that too, but in a different side. It's in a way kind of like how Black Ops 2 did that. Like, you know, they had little tiny choices that would impact the story. Like, if you shoot somebody in a certain area, then this happens. Or if you can shoot somebody or not shoot somebody. Or then there's like different paths you take and all this other stuff.
I remember part. I love this kind of game when you have to, like, every choice you make impacts the whole gameplay. Like,
I like the games that truly do that. Because, like, let's say, for example, the Telltale games or Life is Strange series, it's not exactly that way because there is an actual already set end to those. So it's not really it doesn't really affect it as much as you would think.
Yeah, I mean, like, yes, but I'm more talking about what is like Beyond Two Souls and stuff like that. That it has
I wouldn't know because I haven't seen them. Or I haven't played any of it.
Beyond Two Souls, like every choice you make can
if
have
I get PlayStation Plus, I can play it. Because I have it on there. But
I have it also on PlayStation Plus, you know, because
I think I have it.
I didn't download Beyond Two Souls. I forgot that. I was gonna do that because I have not completed that game yet.
I either have it on there or I don't. But regardless, though, point being, that's in a sense what I think what Dying Light 2 is just gonna be. It's gonna be mostly that, but I feel like it's gonna be much better because the first game, the base game of the first was pretty good. Then they had an add-on called The Following, which expanded on it and even gave people a way, like a bigger map that you could drive around with a dune buggy, which was really cool. So there's that. And then you have Dying Light 2, so I don't know. There's always that. I'm not gonna mention most of the rest of these because we can move on to another topic or something. But I think the last one I'll mainly mention is Death Stranding. Don't know a lot about.
I don't know what it is even.
The next Hideo Kojima game.
Who?
The creator of Metal Gear Solid, who did like Metal Gear Solid like 5, for example. Like, you know,
Yeah,
they
I've
did.
not played. I don't know who that is anyway.
Oh
yeah,
my god, you were just out of touch. Point is, Death Stranding. It was you probably saw the trailers of it or something, but it was basically about that guy who was like in like a darkish, I want to say like a darkish area. There's like some kind of like alien type of deal going on. He had like the spotlight on his back constantly blinking or something, and he was carrying like a baby in a tube. Remember that?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
No.
There was also in the trailer with the baby down his throat. Weird, I know, but it was just like
Yep.
full on there. It was freaking weird. It makes no sense, but that is Kojima's way. It's just the way he works. Like none of this shit makes sense.
Want something normal?
No.
How can we take this normal situation and
Also,
make it weird?
Norman Reedus. So, people kind of freaking fan all over that, which I would imagine I said his name wrong. If I did, whatever. Point being,
What you gonna do? Sue him?
probably. But
Yeah.
all I can say is I do feel like that would be a
gonna say
really
on
good
your
game.
26 cents, yo.
Like I said, it is a Kojima game, and I just feel like it's gonna be really good, but we don't really know when it's gonna come out. There's a lot of stuff that he keeps saying that doesn't add up or does. It's just like, what? I don't know. But
Is
he
the game
does
coming
throw
out?
people off. I mean, obviously, yeah, it's a game that's coming out, and I feel like it's gonna be a good one. So, yeah. I mean, is there any you
When it
have
comes
that
down to
you've thought of during that entire time I was talking?
I'm not sure. If I'm not wrong, or am I wrong? Borderlands 3 has not come out yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
No, it's on its way.
No, but that is something big also going on. Personally, I don't like Borderlands, but when it comes
I
down
haven't really
to
played
the
it much, so I can't say anything.
but
I
like, when
played
it
a
comes
little bit of
down to-
pre-sequel, but it just I
I
never
played
went through
the
it.
second one a little bit, like a few. I think I have a level 60 character or something.
The only reason why I didn't beat pre-sequel is because it was me and Architect playing it, and which for anyone listening new to my community or anything, Architect's a friend of mine. But we were playing it, and we only did just a little bit of it, and we haven't really played it since. Plenty more we could
But
do.
like, with Borderlands, in the story, if you play, well, of course, like the story is so slow paced for me that normally I don't mind slow pace sometimes. Like it can be sometimes chill, just running around, messing around, and just.
Another one.
Oh.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just thought of something. But
Yeah. But I have understood that Borderlands 3 is gonna be like the same thing again, but with now a spaceship apparently. I heard.
I don't
randomly.
know. What I saw in the trailer is maybe whatever his name is. Not Handsome Jack. What was the guy in Tales of the Borderlands? Tales of the Borderlands. There was the main character there. I don't remember his name.
I don't know.
When he gets shot, but it was someone that Troy Baker played, and from a lot of people in the trailer, it looked like he was in the game, but no one contacted him on that. Like no one contacted Troy on that at the time that this was mentioned. So, if in that case that they were putting that out and gonna get Troy later, they could. So if that is him, then just hope that works. They don't get another voice actor like.
And someone is
on.
gonna buy Borderlands 3 just because of that. I mean, what?
I mean, it's just a random side character, then no thank you. But
I mean, you will do it anyways, just because you like that kind of fangirl.
a fangirl of Troy Baker, maybe. Might be.
Like, oh, he's a side character. I'm gonna buy the game.
Hey, he's a very good actor. So screw you. But
I don't
anyway,
care. I don't buy a game just because a specific person is in it.
neither do I.
Very good.
I want to play for the story, but it's a very good bonus if they're in it. Because obviously the actor doesn't make the story, but it can help define it.
And unless the game has a narrator that goes through
no,
the
I'm
whole
saying
story,
like
then they have
in a
to be
way
good.
it depends. Like they don't necessarily make the story of the game, but they can help define it by defining the character and the way they act, because that's just how actors can work.
Then I can mention a new other game I watched today that it was on a demo at least on Mr. Sean's channel. Do you know who that is?
No, but keep going.
Or Gladiator.
Oh, but whatever. What about it?
Yeah.
What?
The video he released today, Misfortune.
I don't even know what that is.
Little Misfortune. It's like it's the creators of Bro.
Friend Bo, and that does sound exciting because I definitely like that game, and I will be restreaming that someday because I did make videos back in the day.
I
that
have
I'm
not
redoing.
played Bro because I never have the hands on it. I've seen.
Honestly, I really like the idea of it because it's like
it looks like my kind of game.
when it comes to Frambo, it's just like I would love to because I like a horror type game that has, especially when it has like an atmospheric soundtrack and everything, and that really does have a really good soundtrack.
Yeah.
So that does seem nice. So
as of the 27 minutes video I watched, or I think the game itself was like he played 25 minutes, but he also did like everything, like check everything in it. It was like. It seems like a game that was.
Is it still a point and click?
It was like. It's more. I don't think it's point and click now. It's like I don't know far because as far as it is now, it's like. I think it would be point and click also. Like I think it goes under that.
I'm saying like, does he walk around normally with like, I don't know, WSD or something like that? Just like walk around normally like you normally would.
Probably, yeah.
Because I'm saying like. With Frambo, for example, you actually have to click on the screen to make her go somewhere, but that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, here is I think you use the joystick or the controller. Or
alright, that could be like, that's like a different point and click, because in a sense, Telltale games are kind of point and click, because you
but there
have
is
to hover over
moments
something.
Where you have to like, you have
that's,
to.
That's just quite time. But anyway, what?
But here's like if you want to, there's like the few times where you have multiple choices that is like you want to check a book or something in a 3 different stuff or something in the beginning, like that stuff. That's like the point and click part. But otherwise, I think it's like a standard story game. Watching that made me like, oh, this game looks amazing. And I'm not saying Frambo, but
considering I never heard of Misfortune before you mentioned it, definitely would be interested then, because you had me at creators of Frambo. You had me at that.
And you're like, okay, continue, please.
At first I was just like, okay, what is this gonna be? You're like, oh, the people who made Frambo. Like, oh, okay, I'm in. I'm sold. Tell me more.
Yeah.
I guess I'll have to watch that later.
But like the first thing is like, it's a really depressing story this time. As this game is.
So is Frambo.
Really depressing. Yeah, I have not played it again.
I know. It was all about depressing, actually. Or depression.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this game also goes under that because it's like the same thing.
Yeah.
But that's interesting, like how.
Sure, I start moving your cable.
Again, it was just a demo, so I don't know when the game comes out, if it comes out this year or next year, but still, it was a game worth mentioning because it was Mr. McLaughlin. It was a great game.
Whatever. Random name drop, by the way, just to know. But
no, if someone understands who this is, they are smart. But
you literally just said his last name and you say Gary Gladiator, and I'm sure everyone knows who it is. Point is, it was a name drop. So you name dropped him in a sense.
I always name drop. What you gonna do? Sue me?
No, but it's the point to say that. Anyway, another random game. I know we were gonna switch topics, but it just randomly made me think of it because we're talking about horror and all this other stuff. Or actually, we're talking about Borderlands 3 at the time. It just popped in my head. Layers of Fear 2 is gonna be coming out soon. I'm like, I really am excited for that.
Awesome. Yeah, I love the first game.
Like, I honestly really did like the first game in that sense because I have always been interested in atmospheric type of games. That's mainly what it was psychedelic atmospheric game or atmospheric horror. So it was like
I mean,
that is
psychedelic horror wasn't really a thing with Layers Fear, but it was like
it was psychedelic because it was trying to make you think something was there, but it wasn't, or it's like trying to make something very eerie, but it's just like it was kind of psychedelic. It's actually part of the genre, but that's its thing. And with 2 coming out, I saw a trailer of it, but I don't remember too much. It's just that I did see a bit of it and was like, oh god, this looks so much better. Like, oh.
are you gonna be like, I'm gonna buy that?
Yeah. Or I'm gonna get the developers to send it to me because, haha. I don't know. That's if.
I'm gonna probably buy it because, damn, okay. So normally I don't play horror games.
I mean, I'd buy it otherwise. I mean, I'm either gonna buy it, or I'm gonna see if I can get a press copy. So I'm just gonna see which one can happen. And if it's a press copy, I will literally live stream it as soon as I get it because I really want to play it.
Yeah, but with me, it's more like this is the thing. If I play a horror game, it's like it has to have a story, preferably. Like,
well, Layers of Fear 2, you know it's gonna.
yeah, because Layers of Fear 1 was like so amazingly made, and the story was like you didn't get bored through the game anyway. It's like it was still like every time you'd read something, it was, oh, this is interesting. It didn't matter if it was just a side note that didn't have any impact on what you did. It was just got interesting everything you read. Like everything that was, even the smallest thing, like just opening stuff was so exciting because you don't know what would happen.
Also, another thing that obviously gets me, which yes, I mentioned it before with Fran Bow and everything else, the music. That just really sells it too, because it's like just very much gets you into that, like, it's creepy or horror type of moods, like all that, especially the main menu thing. I could never stop listening to that.
Ooh, you should restream.
Oh, I plan. I plan. I mean, I've already made a video in the past. It's gonna be a restream thing because I've already made the full series in the past, but I'm gonna definitely redo it. But just like, oh, it's the point that just with 2 coming out, yeah. Once I thought of that, I'm like, screw the other games I mentioned earlier. This is what I'm mainly excited about. It's an indie game. I don't care. I love it. I'm definitely gonna be.
Oh,
interested.
You know this super AAA game from this developer is really good. Like,
I mean, I love AAA games, but it's just the point that this is the one I'm like insanely excited for because it's like coming out soon. And then there's other the other games we mentioned before I'm still excited for, but it's just
then you come to this
I
bigger
loved
indie games that is like super more like, because that's the thing. AAA games feels like they are the same in the end.
These days, yeah. Which we'll come back to that. But
when it comes to indie games, they definitely feels like they put in an effort to do those games instead of actually like, oh, this you have to do this. But with indie games, it's like, oh, you do like what you want.
Yeah, we'll get back. We'll get back into that in a little bit. But when it comes down to it, it's like, I don't really know. Just like I said, I just really enjoyed the first one. So I can imagine the second one's going to be really good. So if you're listening to this, for some random reason, you are this far into the podcast, don't know why you are, Bloober Team. Bloober. Yeah, if you're into this for some reason, don't know why. Cool story. That's awesome, but okay. Totally want to play your game. Really badly. Can't wait.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. Sponsorship? Kidding.
Wink, wink. Also,
sponsorship to play again?
Monster or anything. Energy drinks too. We take that too.
I'm not too big a Monster. I wouldn't. I don't think I would ask for a sponsorship of energy drinks. It's not my thing. I mean, yeah, if I get offered one, I'd probably take it. But it's just like.
As for me, I would take it as a thing, but
There's a lot of like
Or-
sponsorships for people who just like do
Coca-Cola or
food,
something like that.
and I'd probably take that because it's like something to
Oh.
snack on. Because to be honest,
Or
I'm hungry right now. I could use something to eat, but
But yeah, but you eat before the stream. Talk about Twitch. I'm also hungry.
I would have, but there's a problem with that. I don't have much food around here. That's the
Then
problem.
eat your dogs. I don't know.
Hell no.
Yeah, but then it's not my issue.
You got issues. That is your issue, because you do have issues. Anyway, so back to the topic at hand. Definitely excited for that and all the other games we mentioned. So let's get back onto another topic. And that one is kind of related to the point. Not really, kind of, because it is of gaming. We're just going to skip the top highlight. We're going to go into our big topic. So,
Big one.
yeah.
The-
Some that Swede mentioned as a planning, some to plan. And at first I was like, and then I'm like, actually, yeah, we could probably really get into that. So,
Because we are old people, you know.
yeah, we're old people.
You know.
20 and 20s. In our
When
20s.
we were young, you know, kids was actually outside in the forest and in sandboxes. No.
I mean, you know, now they're
Now
glued
they're
to their
inside
phones
in
and their
forest.
tablets and all this, and they're like 5 years old. Or even 3-year-olds. They're just like glued to a thing watching TV or something. I'm like, wow,
And
how
then
the
you-
good old
And
days.
then you have those parents, like, oh my god, my kid watches this stuff. Like, yes.
So,
Who's watching over them? Who's the person that should maintain them?
yeah.
Oh my god, are you saying I'm a bad parent?
Probably.
Oh my god.
Probably a bad parent.
How dare you?
It's your child. You work on it. But we're not here to talk about that. What we're here to talk about is basically a retrospective look on technology and, in a sense, gamings. Back
And roasting
in,
parents.
it's really technology in games and in our lives that we've had in the past, say, 20 to
That's
30
30.
year, or really
I would say 30 because I think we
30 or
the
40.
whole 90s was like we lived through the 90s.
Well,
technology.
80s was still like a really good section to go for too. I mean, it was like
So it's
really
40
inventive,
years. Holy F, we are getting old.
right? We're
Look,
seriously old.
my days.
Well, we'll start with
We
80s, I
had
guess.
phone tablets. Wait, what?
To start with, back in the extremely old days of those times, it's not really extremely old. I mean, it feels that way for us, but I have an audience that is mostly in their 20s. That is my audience, but there are a few in there that are like that were born in the 80s or late 70s. So that's a
Wait,
defensive
you have
deal.
an audience? When did you have that?
I'm just going off of YouTube analytics. That could be like 3 people. But, you know,
Those 370, those
those
40 years
three,
old.
well, it's not like 3 like 23-year-olds because it's like 20 to 24 is like the age range that I mostly get. But anyway, when it comes down to it, we start with the 80s in this sense. Picture back with the 80s. We have music in a sense, like let's say with TV music, we have the type of music that I'm playing right now, synthwave. It was kind of the thing, but not close to the same thing. It was a little different.
Well,
But
for people to know, a TV is something square that you watch stuff.
we
on
still
the
have
pad.
TVs these days, buddy. We still have TVs.
Wait, we do?
Yeah, we haven't reached the hologram age yet.
But
We haven't reached the hologram
no,
age yet.
if you think about it, people today doesn't barely watch TV, so I'm just making fun.
Yeah, but they still have a TV. Like they'll use it for just to
I have
actually
a
get
t-
things on.
I have a TV that my parents have stolen, so my parents have stolen my TV.
Well, you can have a
Yeah.
TV, but you just you don't watch cable. Is the point?
I'm making fun of people don't knowing
Kids, back then cable. That's all we had. We didn't have satellite TV. We had cable. There were
that
boxes,
we barely had cable.
especially in the '80s when cable was short in supply. Imagine that.
Yeah, and we literally had a brick of a TV back then also.
Oh yeah, CRT TVs, everybody. Back in the day when there were no such thing as remote controls, where they used the IR sensors in the front of it. Yeah, those didn't exist. Or using
And if
2.4
just a
gigahertz
small
wires.
bit blocked the TV area, you couldn't like change the channel. Like it was
Yeah, but
so
like I said, that didn't exist back then. You had knobs on the TV where you had to change the channel, change the volume. And then
I
there was
never
the
had
other
that
bit
sort of
where if you
thing.
had like a like there were people who did have satellite TV at that time, or had like a sort of like
Yeah,
a
but
like
that was,
cable.
like,
You had the
rich
antennas on the
stuff.
type of you had the antennas on the top of the TV that you even had to adjust just to get your channels in correctly. So anyone out there who actually wants to experience this in a sense, you still kind of can. There's like these like antenna things that you can buy at say Walmart or something like that, and basically you will you basically just plug it up and say put it on your window or something, like attach it to your window, and then you can plug it into your TV, and it'll and then you push find channels. You will have like say 4 to 16 channels or something like that. That is all you get. When these days we have hundreds, but back then they probably only had like 6 channels or something like that. They had like barely any. So you can kind of experience that in this sense of
and
the kind of stuff they had to deal
back
with.
then also didn't. That was our only way. Newspapers, radio, TV. It was
I mean,
our
that was
only
before
way
TV was
to
mostly.
actually.
I mean,
Yeah, but around then, that was our only news source. We
Yeah,
didn't
there
get
was
that
no
from-
internet. I mean, there was intranet, but not internet. And what
Yeah.
that basically means is that there was like a building network system. So, they would like have a built-in network to connect files with each other and stuff like that. Like, that was around, but not internet. So you can broadcast outward. That took a little bit longer to develop. It did happen around the SNES, like, Sega Saturn era. It was something like that. They did have internet in a sense, but it was kind of different. It connected through the phone line. So
Yeah.
here's another thing for everybody in the old age: phones. They were big. They had a cable on them, spirally cable most of the time.
Actually, it
They
depends
connected
on
to the
which,
wall.
I mean, yeah, that thing. And then if you have like, and if you had a
even had a
mobile phone,
dial.
like a mobile, they could actually be real breaks. Like, no joke.
Yeah, they were like gigantic freaking things just stuck in your ear. Like, yeah, that was a mobile phone back then, and
It was as big as your
type of
freaking
phone. That type of phone, for one, you had to be rich, and another bit, that just sucked a lot. Not great.
Oh
but-
yeah, and is it 80s? They still had MP3. Was it the 80s? The MP3 came out.
I don't know, but I mean, back then it was cassettes, and
Yeah.
like, it wasn't the age of CDs yet. So back in the 80s, in
No,
this
because
sense, like
the
it
CDs
was
came in the 90s and died
Yeah.
due to 2000s.
due to digital devices, but like, it came down to like we had cassette tapes at that point. I say
MPOS.
we, I wasn't born yet, but I'm saying like neither of
Yeah,
us were
but
born this time.
We both had it, so we
Yeah,
know
it
the
just like we know the feeling, but they were just cassettes, just little like. Basically, if anyone knows what a VCR is, yes, that's another thing we have to mention too. But basically, just a little tape, like a little like plastic rectangle that basically had like lines of tape in it, in a sense that I don't know how to explain how it works, but just like it had that in there, and basically you put it in and it would play the music from that, and that was
And-
that. Oh, vinyl records too. Just basically, you have your CD, but then you have a
That was
gigantic
like
freaking
the,
one.
the beginning of CDs was.
Yeah, that was the beginning, was vinyl record. And then of course like it lowered down into the cassette player, which you could play through a car or like an actual huge player. Or until you got what everyone would call like, say your MP3 player or your phone or something, play music on that. They had the Sony Walkman. Which, yeah. That in the sense would just be a little tiny device that had that, and there you go. We don't have the normal earphones these days, the ones that go in your ear at that point. It was all headphones, they were bulky as ever. So, try listening to your music in class like that, kids. You want to sneak your music into class? Good luck bringing in your Walkman, or hey, bringing in a huge freaking vinyl player. Like, hey, I want to listen to music this way. Like, yeah, good job. Good luck.
Like, I mean, so I'm just gonna mention a movie. If
It's a huge-
anyone have seen Karate Kid back in the day, the old one. the
That's
one
when
from
Woody showed off,
2000,
yeah.
That just really shows how the
Just any
basic of
show or
music
movie
was.
back then, like you can literally just search these up, or just search up little clips or something. You can basically see it, or just search up the items we're talking about. So this is So yeah, I mean, we had all that.
Back.
There were even some people who were like poor enough to where they couldn't afford color TV. They couldn't afford it. They had to get black and white only. Imagine how that would be.
Because that was still expensive.
It was
That
still
was-
kind of. It wasn't as bad because it was around this. Was it
I think
70s that color started?
60s was when color TV became a
Well,
big
60s
thing.
was.
But
60s
I think the price started to go down around the 80s.
might
Because
have been late 60s, but yeah, when it comes to 80s, that's when it was like down enough to where middle class or a little bit higher than middle class could actually afford it. But
yeah.
any of the lower class still had to stick with black and white. And then you
And I
got
think we
cable.
went back to that price range today. So like,
Yeah,
the
and
rich people is only about affording those nice stuff, and then you have us with like TVs. Like, oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And like I said, when it comes to cable, like I said, there was barely any channels, like 6 channels. And you know, there was stuff like, I forget what people told me. There was like Sci-Fi Channel, the History Channel, a couple of news outlets, and a few other things. So just tiny little channels that most people don't even watch these days, except for Sci-Fi Channel. I know a lot of people watch that. But it's just like a lot of stuff just like not many people watch these days was all they had back then. And then of course you think of music videos or someone would make a music video, it had to be aired on TV. That's the only way anyone could ever see it.
MTV.
Yeah, MTV, that was another one. That was another channel that they had back then. So they would like post it out on like that. Just imagine how that goes.
And this thing also, commercials. Today you can
Oh,
skip
God,
ads online, but back then there was no skip button.
I mean, of course you can't
You
really
had
do that with a
2,
lot of cable
3
these days either.
Yeah, but yeah, 2-3 minutes. For now, yeah, basically 2 to 5 minutes. You had on you to do business between.
See, that's the thing about actual like shows back then. They mixed it with the shows. So the actual show itself would include commercials in it. The actual TV itself or the network wouldn't run commercials. The shows would. So they would actually, like the people who edited the shows back then would actually add the commercials into it every time they went to commercial. And then that would be actually broadcasted live. So that bit is a little weird in itself compared to what they do now. But yeah.
But still, you like when they did start with the commercial, you had 2-5 minutes to actually run between doing stuff between the commercial breaks. Like you could, like if you watched a show, you can't pause, like
No.
without missing something. And
You can't
today
pause,
it's
no.
like, oh, I need to go to the toilet. Click, pause, go to the bathroom.
Yeah, can't do that now. So we go through all
Back then-
that.
Ooh,
There's another part of cable I was wanting to talk about.
Oh,
Other than that, it was
I'm
well,
feeling
okay, I
old
did
now.
mention it. Right. We're not even this old, but we feel kind of old because I can't really say we're 90s kids in a sense because we didn't fully
You
grow up in
definitely
that
not
sense.
90. I'm the one that's the most 90s of us too.
Yeah, but most of your memories started developing when 2000 hit. Most of them, anyway. So
The end of the world.
right, we'll get to that later. So we'll scoot up a little bit to the point when video games were type of a system. So it started off with, it wasn't Pong, it was another type of game, I forgot what it was, but we'll say that the arcade systems were like a big thing at that point, like all the time, which I still wish that was a thing these days, because now
I
it's
think
just
that
cheap
is also
gimmicky
mentioned
games.
in Karate Kid. I think they mentioned also like, but I think that's going
It's
out
an
under the
80s. It's an 80s movie. It's obviously gonna have 80s arcade
Yeah, I
or
think
something.
they have some arcade in it. It's like, yeah, that was the 80s in the at least in the United States. Swedish, I think we was. Sweden is like we're dumb, so.
But when it comes down to it, just like it's really awesome to have that type of deal. Because if you're thinking about it, we had the arcade games to start with stuff like, let's say, Pong, for instance. Yeah, nowadays that is very, very basic and is just like worth not much. But back then, it was definitely something. You know, you had to,
That was like hot.
it was something
Like
playable.
advanced. Like back then, that was advanced. Today,
Yeah.
advanced. That is like nothing compared to what you can do today.
Yeah.
That is.
And then you had other games which came out, like, you know, Bandai, or actually back then it was just Namco. It became Bandai Namco way later on. But, like, we had Namco type of stuff like Pac-Man and Galaga and Xavius, whatever, just a bunch of other stuff, or Xevious, I don't know how the hell how you pronounce that, but point is just that you have all those type of really good games that just came out randomly, and then you have to think about it this way. These days, when you lose a game, you can just restart from checkpoint, no problem. Half the time when you lose a game, then you have to restart, or you would have to get a continue by putting in more quarters. You had to spend constant money. There are kids who basically spent like all their like money every day, so they could probably go to college on the money they spent on those arcade machines. Especially freaking Dragon's Lair. Holy crap. That's a game where basically if you die, you had to put in another quarter. Or something. It's just like, yikes. A lot of people put in a lot of stuff for that.
But, like, yeah. I think, yeah, and those that had a home console, like that's, I think it still exists a few in the late 80s, but that was just also rich kids. That's the thing. That's
depends on the ones you had. I mean, first it started off with the Atari 2600, which was the main like home console that started it all out. Which, yeah, that much you were definitely you definitely had that, and obviously a lot of people like that's basically where a lot of stuff like came down to doing that. And then later on we get into the Nintendo era when they started doing consoles, and we get the Nintendo Entertainment System, which we mentioned briefly before, but we have that kind of stuff, which was the real home console, because you could do a little bit more with it. It was 8-bit games. And as you were saying, like, we got Nintendo, and then we got into Sega with their Genesis and everything, with them making the Genesis, which is where the true console wars era started.
But that did die really quick, didn't it? Because
Sega... there's still more. There's still more consoles to go on with, but we have the Sega Genesis, then we have Nintendo at that point, which the Genesis came around when the Super Nintendo was being made, so we get like 16-bit era games, and it's just the point that there was a huge console clash with that one. And for anybody out there who owned, say, both a Nintendo and a Genesis, a Nintendo and a Sega console, you were definitely the rich kid around to have both. Because half the time, back then, you could rent consoles. You could actually rent consoles to actually play. And you could like do it for like a day or like a few days or something, like do that, or just go to your local store and like rent a few NES cartridges or something, like do that. And that's what people did. People who couldn't afford to actually own one, they would just rent it. And that's what they did.
And that also proves that back then, they didn't really 100% care about the money. They didn't make it for people to actually have fun. Well, today...
I mean, they did try back in the day. It was just like their thing. I'm saying that, what is it? Out of my head, then I just lost it. Stupid brain. Freaking 3 o'clock brain. I don't know, just back in the day, obviously, things were limited because technology wasn't, like, big in itself. But they definitely did a lot of stuff, especially some stuff that was just, like, out of its time. Like, let's say, in the Super Nintendo part, we got Star Fox. That was definitely ahead of its time because they had to put in a new chip called the VFX chip, or I think that's what it's called, VFX, Super Graphic, I don't know, it's just a type of chip they had to put in it, and that basically was way ahead of its time, putting 3D games on a 16-bit 2D console. 16-bit, meaning only 16 colors can be used, on like a 16-color palette can only be used, no more colors. Imagine how limited that'd be. How limited that is with a 3D game. Like, that's just like, how does that work? I'm like, jeez. Yeah,
and I think we still are on the 80s. We have not moved to the 90s. Can you think about how much... I think we're gonna move over slowly more to the 90s than the 80s, but like...
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Where we going to the more stuff that most people should know, even kids that are born like 2010. Dumb kids.
Right. You kids don't know how easy you have it. You don't know how
back
good
in
you have it.
my day, we didn't die in a podcast because we barely had podcasts back.
I mean, you had radio talk shows, but it was essentially what podcasts are these days. It's just like back then was just radio talk shows or something like that.
Yeah, it was more talk shows because podcast today is more saved stuff. Well, talk shows is like that was live. That was often aired live. That's still also 80s, 90s. And think about it this way: radio still exists. They still do talk shows, but
a lot of that stuff is actually
people
scripted and is actually like pre-recorded on radio sometimes. Because sometimes they'll like do something, like pre-record it, and then they'll just play it again later. Sometimes the pre-recording is live, and then they just replay it later again. It's just how that works, but
the
they obviously couldn't do
pre-recording
that.
is live.
How that makes sense? Don't ask me.
The pre-recording is live. Call 911.
But anyway, there's like that kind of stuff, and then we have, say, we're gonna get like more into the 90s, but like when it comes to game consoles, we evolved from what that was to we went from like 16-bit, then we like go into the next era, which was getting into when did the Nintendo 64 come out? Like 96? You know, we're jumping a little far ahead on that one.
Here's the thing, because here's around the time when Sony left also, because the CD came out.
Oh yeah, because we had like Nintendo was getting
yeah, the CD
like, okay,
had
like
come
the
out
SNES was like the CD platform, the compact disc format was just came out, and we were okay. We skipped a little bit of something. We skipped something. So another game system that was back before was DOS, MS-DOS. It was just like a computer system, which is basically just a terminal, but you could also run games on it. But it didn't use discs as we know of, or just digital download. They used floppy disks. Imagine those guys. Square freaking drives, which I guess you could equate a floppy disk to something like a USB drive, but like super thin and fat. Doesn't make any sense when I say that out loud. Thin and square. How about that? Does not make any sense. Thin and fat. That's two different things. So anyway, you have that, and you have to just insert it in. And a lot of games back in the day came with like 6 or 7 of those, or something like that. You had to insert all of those just to install one game, even though the games were super small, like in the megabytes or something, like tiny little megabytes.
Didn't take more than like kilobytes, I think.
No, I think they got up to like a few kilobytes, but you just had to like keep putting in so many of them just to install one game. And yeah, and the worst part is that was also a way for people to save like content. Like let's say they put a floppy disk in their computer and they had like online homework or something, or like they had like a homework program they could do or something. They could do all their work on that, put on the floppy disk. But the problem is, if you ran across anything magnetic, like if something is some magnet, or say microwaves back then, because they were really powerful at that point, like anything that if it would run across something like that, everything on that floppy disk would be erased. Just immediately. You lose all your data on it. And imagine how pissed you'd be if you brought that from your home, go to your school, and try to like put it in a computer, no files found. Just imagine how that would be. It just always happens. Just out of random. I mean, we have issues with corrupted flash drives these days, but it was way worse back then. You could just have it on a whim. Like, jeez. And then, as we were getting into the compact disc era, which is where we got CDs, and which were basically, like, we already had vinyls, but they made it smaller, which is why they call it the compact disc, because it's, like, much smaller. And you could just fit quite a bit on there, which, of course, it expanded, like, how much of it you could put on there at a time. But we went from Nintendo and Sony working together to create the Nintendo SNES, like, CD installment. Like, you can have, like, that in there. And then they had, like, a fallout near the middle of production, so it got scrapped, and then they created their own console, the PlayStation.
The PlayStation. the first one.
Yeah, the very first PlayStation, which people either call the PS1 or the PSX. Your choice, make up your thing. And, of course, at the same time, everyone else, we have when Nintendo, they upgraded to the Nintendo 64. So that was kind of a bit.
That was still, wasn't gonna... I think that is like around the era where Sony actually become the greatest company at the time in the gaming industry because they made something new instead of keeping the old ways of what
Yeah, because I mean,
did.
beforehand, well, not just Nintendo, like it was like, okay, it was Nintendo going with more cartridges, just a different style of cartridge, and then Sony goes off and makes a disc-based thing. I mean, yeah, okay, it was with Nintendo having that, but they also had another way they could do it, which was, because I'm pretty sure back in the day, Sony was trying to patent using discs, and as everyone knows with a patent, you can't copy it. So if you try copying with a disc, you're gonna get a lawsuit, and that's why Nintendo mainly stuck with cartridges at the time, which they mostly have, actually, they have pretty much all throughout until they got to the freaking GameCube era. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But with that, they had that, and then they had what was called the disk drive add-on, I think it was called. Basically just little tiny floppy disks that went into the 64. That never came out. It got scrapped. It was basically just putting, like, say, DLC or add-ons into Nintendo 64, which, not the bad DLC, not anything like that. It was the reason for it to be cut out. These days, they cut out DLC because they're money laundering fools who are, like, greedy jerks who just want to get money out of us. That's why they make DLCs these days. But back then, it was the fact that they couldn't fit everything on a cartridge. They only had so much memory. Then the disk drive came, and then you had more memory that you can add on to it, so you can have like a bonus game. Like, let's say, for example, Ocarina of Time, you had that base game, and then you had the disk drive version, which would expand and have like a whole new dungeon or something, which I think was called like the Light Temple. But yeah, that kind of stuff. And then that just never happened.
Also, around this era, talking about going back to TV, around the 90s, I think that was when almost everyone had actual coloring television also.
Yeah. Also, remotes were basically made by then. We had actual remotes. And, so we didn't have to walk up and change the channel. We had that. And VCRs were mainly more of a thing.
Now. Turn on the knob. Nah, I'm gonna use this magical thing called a control.
Yeah, a remote control. But then also there was what was it? It was I'm trying to think. VCRs, like I said.
Doesn't come out here also.
No, not really yet.
Because
sort of.
Didn't they come out in the 90s?
I'm pretty sure they did, but I'm still trying to mention something else. Like I did mention it previously, but like the VCR was basically, like I said, the mini, like cassettes were like a tinier version with the VCR, which was like giant box versions, which was more standard than having a DVD at the time.
That was that was what CD
I will tell you now.
Pushed out.
None of you kids know the pain that is rewinding your VCR tape before watching it again. Because yes, you had to do that. And if
wasn't it like when you get a rental place, didn't they have to, like, if you didn't rewind, you had to pay an extra?
Yeah, exactly. You had to pay another, like, a fee if you didn't rewind before you returned it. So if you went, like, to your local library and rented a VCR tape, the way it works is that it didn't have, like, a restarting system, because the way it works is, like I said, the tape that's on the inside, it basically reads from that, like, the entire, like, all the data that's on that tape. So you have to actually rewind it to get straight back to where it was. And that's a pain. That's a real pain to have to do. And none of you know how that feels.
Yeah, and not only that, like, if you by time they could strangle inside, like, or yeah,
you have to be careful of that. And
you have problem with cables today. Speak about
there was also kids who would, like, grab the tape on the inside and pull it out.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yes, sometimes you could put it back in, but it was a serious pain having to deal with that. Not fun. And it
And
just,
then they say,
I mean, you could also at that point,
better.
like, that's another thing. Like these days, we have a more refined DVR, which, you know, for anyone who for some reason doesn't know what that is, it's basically to where, say, you're watching a TV show or you want to watch a TV show, you can record it and it will download to your local storage in a sense. Like just that show would actually download as like a file format in a sense, like goes to the hard drive of your cable box. So that's something it can do. Back then, that was not a thing. You had to get a VCR, blank one, and you could record the actual TV onto it, but it was much different. It was like I don't know how to explain it.
You could actually use a movie that did have stuff on it, but that would just overwrite the thing that was.
That is the thing too about VCR. You would actually overwrite things. So basically,
there was
you would
no
have
such thing as like, oh, I want to have the like today you have USB.
USB. You can have multiple things, but
like, oh, I want to download this series and then take it with me because I'm going to a friend. Back then, did you want a series? You had to have multiple friggin'
the way you're getting a series is for one, if that can fit on that VCR for one, on the VCR tape, and then there's also they're all put back to back, and then you just record it all at that same time. That could work, but like I said, it just depends on how much you can put on there. That's the only way you really could do it. Because otherwise, if you tried to say, oh, hey, the show comes out today, put in the VCR tape, record, then you take it out, and then say, oh, hey, the next episode came out, I want to record that on the exact same VCR tape. You just overwrit the entire first episode. It's basically what just happened.
Yeah.
That you had.
Today, and also, then you have, like, then, again, now we can go into the MP3 stuff, like, that was when because that was one thing.
The first real MP3 was the Apple iPod. That was the real first one in a sense, because we had the iPod, which definitely revolutionary at its time, for sure.
But
I'd say real, but I'm sure there were other ones.
New, like we said, CD new.
Oh, speaking of, we forgot to mention, other than the DVD player or the freaking MP3 player, CD players. We eventually got portable CD players. First, there were boom boxes, so you could actually put it in. Like, actually, no, that's where the cassette tapes went in. You put them in boom boxes, and then later you could put CDs in it. And then later you got like mini CD players, which would replace the Sony Walkman back in the day, because the Walkman was like can like fit on your like belt or put in your pocket. CD players were somewhat in that sense. You can really put in your pocket because of how rounded and big it was, but you get the picture. You could probably put in like a trench coat pocket or a jacket pocket or something like that. But it just got in a sense better.
The issue with MP3 players, like because they used CDs, was because they got big.
That's another thing not many people are gonna get, or not many people are gonna feel the pain of, is when you get a CD and you're like, oh hey, I want to listen to this. This is gonna be good music. Skips a lot, or just goes nuts and like, okay. But yeah, you can still experience it these days, because obviously CDs are still around. It's just more of a dead format. Same thing with DVDs and Blu-ray. That can still happen.
What is a CD? What is that?
Yeah, you have all that kind of stuff. Like, they still exist to this day. Just most people are stuck on digital. But it's just at that point, it's like a lot of kids don't know that pain either of having, like, you get that CD. You're like, oh yeah, I like finally got this music that I've been wanting to listen to. Pop it into the disc player, boombox, or whatever you got, and that happens. Just like it's skipping, or it just messes up in a sense. You're kind of screwed unless you want to go buy another one. Good luck with that. Not easy.
Like the 90s, people say that like back in the day we had it easier. When it comes to technology, no, we didn't.
No, in technology, today, everything was very like. You kids today are very lucky on how lenient technology is these days. Yeah, it's still a little rough in some areas, but it's nowhere near as bad as what it used to be.
Yeah, and not only that, and also talk about the 90s, the internet. That was where it started.
Yeah, that basically started. I mean, of course, Of course, back
But
then the internet wasn't much. These days we have like a search engine and we have like all this stuff. Back then, obviously, all you can mainly do was just if you knew the address to put in, you could put it in. Like that's basically all you had, really.
Yeah. And you had to actually type
Up,
everything. You
Zoom.
didn't have to use. You couldn't just type YouTube to get to this website. There was like literally had to write www.youtube.com to
Which,
get
of course,
to the
YouTube
website.
was obviously not around back then, but
No,
or
but pick an example that people actually know exists.
I mean, there was that. Then you actually had to put in actual IP addresses sometimes to go for it. But it's just the point that there was all that. And here is the real pain, which, yeah, we haven't got into the era of it. Actually, yes, we have. We're in the late 90s. We can go ahead and move on. So, late 90s. We now are moving into when the Xbox first came out. One of the cool features of the Xbox? Online. Oh, and another thing about the Xbox that was the first of its kind to do this. DualShock controllers. That was never thought of back then. That was like an impossible feat. Like everybody thought, 2 analog sticks? Something's wrong there because no other console did that before. Everybody thought it was weird to have 2 analog sticks. So you take it from that, and you just look, and you know, if you think I'm wrong, like the first PlayStation came out with just a D-pad. There were no analog sticks to be spoken of on that. And then the Nintendo 64 only had one.
God. Try to move with that, kids.
Try to play a first-person shooter with your D-pad, kids. Have fun with that. That doesn't sound fun. Or a racing game with a D-pad or something. It's just like, it is not fun. Like, you had to do that with all your games. And then later when the Xbox came out, you know, Sony's like, okay, so they have this format of DualShock, we should do that too. So they created a controller for it that was compatible with their PlayStation. And they did that. Of course, it wasn't completely compatible because mainly it just mapped some of the D-pad's functions to the analog stick, and the right analog stick didn't really do a lot of stuff. In some games, it had more support, and you could control the camera or something like that, which wasn't a big thing because back then everything was fixed camera angles. Resident Evil and Silent Hill, I'm looking at you. But yeah.
But today, if you have a game with fixed camera, people are gonna be like, but I don't like this is word like back then. That was not a choice. We didn't have a choice about between a fixed camera or a locked camera or a
Basically just
moving
fixed.
camera.
I mean,
Everything was basically fixed.
some games there weren't a fix, like let's say Crash Bandicoot, for example. That wasn't necessarily fixed, but it was kind of a fixed. It wasn't like fixed where it wouldn't move at all. It was like locked onto, like, in a sense. It would kind of follow you in a way. Yeah. It's a weird, like, way that worked. And I was going to skip over this because I didn't even think about it, but thank you, Zugo, in my chat for mentioning this. Game Boy. That was around this era. The Game Boy.
Yeah, that's
Like the
also
original-
late 90s, I think.
Yeah,
because
the original Game Boy, which back then, revolutionary. Having a portable gaming device, which obviously the first portable gaming device was the Game & Watch, I believe. That was like the actual real first one, but we're not going to talk about that. We'll just say it was good. But
Oh, we forgot one important game.
oh, and the
thing.
Atari Lynx. What?
Tamagotchi. That was the 90s or something, or if it's 80s.
I don't really know much about it, so it's not the best to go for. But
Had back. Oh my god, I have heard so many stories of parents being, oh, our kids had it, and it drove us crazy. Like,
yeah.
because you had to literally, this is like revolution still, in my opinion, because you literally had to feed an animal. Literally take care of an
Oh,
animal.
wait, are we talking about the little handheld devices where it's just like feed?
Tamagotchi.
Or are we talking about like the actual, like, I don't know what that is, to be honest.
Have you never had? Oh my
I know,
god,
I don't know what it
that-
is because I know the name, but I don't really know about it because I never really paid attention to it.
I think I had one, but
The only
my
thing I
animal
know
died.
of is like the little digital game where you could, where it's basically like feeding a pet. It's like a digital pet type of
yeah,
deal.
that's not Tamagotchi.
Okay, make sure.
You feed a diesel pet, you clean up the area and everything. Like it was like
Yeah, basically, and another thing that would kind of happen is either if the power turned off, because I'm pretty sure the only way you could save back then was if you had like a battery attached inside of it. It had to have a battery to power the save. Pretty stupid, but that's how that works. We'll get back more into that when we're talking about Game Boy. But like there was that type of deal, and if you turned it off, save gone, and you had to keep the battery. You had to like keep everything like powered in a sense. Which there are batteries to it or something, but it's just the point. There's that. And yeah, imagine losing a full like save on that pet you were just taking care of and just like completely wiped afterwards. The fun with that, kids. You basically just killed a digital pet. Cry for weeks.
You killed your pet.
Cry me a river.
How are you happy? You killed an innocent pet because you popped out.
Yeah.
You feel happy.
And to continue on, though, we'll go back to the Game Boy era now. Basically more revolutionary in this sense, to the point that it's like, it was obviously great, but think about this. That was a giant freaking handheld in your hand, because those things were big. You had to put like, I forgot what it was, like 9 batteries? I forgot how much. It was like a ton of batteries you had to put in that thing just for it to properly run. It was insanely big. And there was no such thing as a backlit screen back in those days, or well, I guess frontlit could be a thing, but it didn't really come out to the color. But you had like no backlit screens. So basically it was just an image on a screen where you had to actually have like a point of light to see what was on it. So you actually had a point like under a lamp or in like, sunlight, which not too much sunlight.
You could do to turn it up. But it's like, yeah, use sit in something light or have something light. But nowadays, literally brightness and to make it darker, lighter.
Oh yeah, there's no brightness change, but there's that kind of stuff. And another thing is, at the time of the Game Boy, the original Game Boy, no such thing as color. It was still black and white. That's all you got. That's all you got, kids. Black and white. So, wasn't that fun? And eventually they came out with the next edition.
No, not yet.
No, we're still going. Not much has changed.
Does 90 kids feel old yet? Because this is like every 90s kids have experienced everything we're talking about. If you're 90 from the 90 to 99, basically everything we're talking about, you have somehow experienced a little bit of. Somehow.
Probably.
If you haven't, you are lucky kind of person anyways, but also kind of unlucky because it was an amazing era.
I mean, honestly, 80s was better than 90s in some senses. Because there's a bunch of crap going on in the 90s at the same time, and then obviously 90s just wasn't, I don't know, great.
But I think around the 90s also was our most technology step up, not from just gaming, but in general, I think.
I don't know, because I'd kind of boost that to the 2000s in a sense.
I think the 90s was the boost, but the biggest takeoff is in the mid 2000s.
Sorry. Zuko just posted in the chat, the worst game of Game Boy was Golden Sun. I'm like, you take that back. I don't even remember.
I don't want to hear this, okay? Don't talk about my baby like that.
Nah, I mean, there was better stuff with Game Boy, but when it comes down to it, technically, yes, I can talk about the next piece, which was the Game Boy Light. No, wait, Game Boy Pocket. That's what it was. No. Game Boy Pocket first, which was to lower the size of the original Game Boy because it was too big, so it just made it a smaller size. And then there was kind of like a mixture period between this. Like you had the Game Boy Color, but then you also had the Game Boy Light. Like the Game Boy Color was obviously the next gen of the Game Boy because it introduced a colored spectrum onto handheld consoles, because before you didn't have that. You still didn't have the backlit screen, but you had new stuff like a link cable, so you could actually do stuff with games. Like let's say in the Game Boy Color,
Pokemon.
In the first bit of Game Boy, you obviously had the Pokemon games like Pokemon Red and Blue, and then when the Color came out, it was like shortly after those two games came out. and then you had Pokemon Yellow, which like emphasized the like mostly of color. They all worked on color, obviously. Like every Game Boy game works on Game Boy Color. It's backwards compatible. But it was just basically that introduced color, but still not a backlit screen. You had a link cable, so you could do like say trading with the Pokemon games. I don't know if a headphone jack was a thing back then on the original Game Boy. It is on the Color.
I have an advanced and that I don't.
Well, yeah, that's in advance, but I'm saying on the Color there was the Color had a headphone jack. I have one, but yeah, I have a Game Boy Color, but I'm saying that.
And I have an advanced in a box.
See, I have. Okay, let's say this. I have a broken Game Boy Color. It's broke now. I had to get another one.
You wanna cry?
But maybe, because it's like $40 to get another one. Maybe 50 with a type of shell I'm wanting. Why did it break? But anyway, so there's that, and a little bit after they came up with a Game Boy Light, which wasn't very well known, so they didn't really continue the thought of it, which was basically to put a front light, I think. I don't think it was a backlight. It was a front light built into the screen so you could actually see with it turned on. And I think you could probably turn the light on and off, but it's just that was a way to play Game Boy games. Don't think it supported Game Boy Color at the time. It was just normal Game Boy, so they had that. And then, was there anything else 90-wise that wasn't games? Phones got a little bit better. Oh, I didn't mention the other bad point about when the Xbox came out. Oof.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, wait, no, Xbox was more. We're still kind of in 90s because Xbox, I didn't mention it, but that boosts up into the late 90s. Like,
yeah, I
us
guess
to
it's
there,
in the
so.
late 90s, I think.
We are in the late 90s right now because we already mentioned everything else, but.
Back in my day.
Okay, I guess we can enter late 90s to early 2000s at this point to say.
Yeah, I think we have pretty much
there's not too much to mention. So basically, phone lines obviously still a thing. That is how you got internet, kids. Phones. You had to go through your phone provider to do that, which you still kind of do that here, so, in some cases. Like a Verizon or AT&T or some will have like a hotspot you could use or something like that as like your router, which has data limits. But we'll just say at that point back in time, you had to use your phone line. And imagine this. Imagine you are in an online game on Xbox, which will say Halo 2, for example, because that was like one of the first main online games at that point. Imagine playing that. And then someone gets a phone call in the living room. Turn on answers the phone. You just got disconnected. That was another thing about the internet back then. You could be just browsing the internet or playing an online game or whatever. Someone picks up that phone or calls or whatever. You've just been disconnected from the internet. That was like, how it worked. One or the other.
Yeah, that's so lucky because I don't think we have been too much experienced those parts, but we know about it because wow, stories about adults that tell us about how they had it on the night. Like we know those stuff because we've been told that ourselves. But again, we are both. I'm born 96. It's born 95.
Yeah, stop moving that cable. Actually, I think I'm starting to hear static from your mic because that's not how static sounds. That's not how it sounds.
Back then, like if you had bad internet, static was a bad thing. Also, you have this. You couldn't really have a voice call with friends.
What are you doing with your mic?
Nothing. I'm sitting.
It is moving. Like your actual cable connected to your headphones is like moving or something. Like even if you're just like turning your head a little bit or like moving just a tad bit.
My cable is broken. Okay, don't judge me.
Get a new headset. It doesn't need to be an expensive one.
It is a new
something.
headset.
Well, get another new one. You broke it. Maybe you have a warranty.
I'm switching it too much, I think, between a controller. I need two headsets, technically. One for the PlayStation and one for the PC.
Buy an A40. Or an A50 or something. When you get the money. But those are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
To go from PS4 to PC.
Like,
But anyway.
Talk about calls and stuff. That wasn't that didn't really exist back then.
I mean, there was voice controls. I mean, voice gameplay. That was a thing. It did come out with Xbox, I think. I don't know if it was on this. We skipped it a little bit. I just realized we skipped some stuff. Oh boy.
No. I mean, we
Yeah.
just skip. If we're gonna be point
Okay,
the
but
thing,
yeah, we definitely skipped a few things when it comes to internet-wise. So, here's another thing about the internet that I forgot to mention. The Super Famicom, it was something. I forgot what it's called. I don't know if it was in television. It was something. Or Click? No, that's another thing. I don't know. Point, it was like a Famicom type of deal they only had in Japan. They had like a broadcasted network of games that like you had a little add-on to the Super Famicom system, and basically they would have like a range of little demos that you could download, and basically what would happen is you would have, say, a few days or something to play this one game, and it would be downloaded to your system, and it would just be like downloaded to like a whatever it is, like read access memory or something, like just a little RAM thing, and then it would be overridden by another one that would come in, and then you'd have that version of the game. It'd be different versions of the game. They have like 3 of them. Like at that point, it was the BS Legend of Zelda thing, which yes, it's called BS. I don't know why they called it that. I think that's what it was called. It was like BS something. I don't know. It was something like that. But point is, they had something like that, and it was basically a Super Nintendo version of the NES version of Legend of Zelda. Anyway, they would have stuff like that, and once one of those went away, it was gone forever because it just they didn't really rebroadcast them. And then eventually, the stuff went away, and a lot of those games were just lost to time. So you had that. Just imagine that to downloading demos. Just you have a little thing, it would download a random demo that was time constrained too. I forgot to mention that. They were all time limited. So you could only play it for like maybe an hour, or like play it for 20 minutes or something, and then it would just cut you off. You have to re-download it again. Not fun. Then of course, to boost back up, we have another.
Still kind of exists those stuff, like they limit you to play some demos. Like there's only a certain.
Yeah.
But like when it comes down to it, like demos has always been short. It's meant to be short. It's not like meant to be like the full-fledged game. Some demos actually have the full-fledged game, but you're like limited because of you have a time limit instead. So
Yeah.
try to speedrun like Dark Souls on a demo in a full game, but you have the full game. But you have to speed. You have like 30 minutes to complete it.
Yeah. And now to go back to what we were on about the talking with like friends like through the consoles. That was a thing when Xbox came around, because it actually had the voice. It actually could do like, you know, you had the headsets and everything. They were started around then, and all that. So there was that bit.
So it was there. It started with the screaming Xbox kids.
It was even worse because there was even a feature where you could disguise your voice. You could like have a voice filter that would make your voice super deep or super like high pitched or something. And one thing that really got to me was that, or it wasn't really that it got to me. I just thought it was like, okay, well, you know how dated this is, because in the commercial they were saying like, oh, you could disguise your voice so your friends won't know who you are, anything like that. Like, okay. And it shows a girl trying to play a game and she has to disguise her voice. I'm like, that is, wow. Okay, you can tell how dated this is. Because at the time it's like saying, oh, girls don't play games much and they don't want their friends knowing that they're a girl.
Back then, to be honest, girls didn't play games that much as they do today. But that was like,
I mean, obviously,
we had this also.
I mean, the real reason why is just because they were chastised every time they tried.
Yeah, and also, we still is in the 90s. The thing about it, the gender thing was still like, girls do girl stuff. You play with dolls, you do makeup, you do stuff like that. Boys, cars, gaming.
Well, I mean, it's not like that's like it was limited to that, because at the same time, there still was plenty of.
yeah, but that was like the era where I think the 90s was like also the era where we started to actually see that genders could work a lot better to get like a girl could be a engineer if it's so, but we still had the gap was a lot bigger than it is today, but not much. It's still big today, but you know,
Yeah, but
like
like I was saying though, it's just basically the point that it was still they were still happening. It was still happening. It was just
yeah,
I don't
like
know. It's different, but
again, it was still like short thing because like it still was not a big thing back then, but now
yeah.
if you see a girl game, people are like, "Oh, cool, amazing." It's like
Well, I
today
mean,
is nothing. Like if anyone plays a game, it's like nothing. But back then, if a girl played a game, it was like, "Oh my god, you play games? What is this?"
this is black
like
magic. Like it was bad enough that was the thought.
witch, we need to burn her.
No, now you're just making this sound bad. Anyway,
It was like,
I don't feel like it was that
almost-
bad. It wasn't that bad, but to keep on
Oh,
going
that-
with, huh?
I mean,
I'm saying
yeah,
it wasn't that bad.
I don't know.
I'm sure it wasn't that bad. I'm saying they were probably made fun of a tad bit, but I'm saying it wasn't really that bad. To where it was like, you know,
I'm
they're
always
just like
you know me, it's comedy. People like comedy over the top.
comedy making possibly sexist jokes. All right, cool. Anyway, let's go on with the whole fact of we're getting back into it. So a little bit to continue the Sega era of before it like killed itself. We basically have the Dreamcast that came around sometime around then. So it competed a little bit with Nintendo at the time. Not really a lot, but they had a few good games like Crazy Taxi and Sonic Adventure when it was a thing. Or it's still awesome, obviously. Then other stuff like that. There are a few other things that were on the Dreamcast, but I don't really remember much. Sega Bass Fishing, there you go. But you got like a bunch of stuff that was around then.
Yeah, but again,
Then it moved on to the
that
Sega
was
Saturn,
like,
which
I
wasn't a
think
big
that
thing.
was like because Sony basically, I think Sony is the big factor here that killed off like Sega. I feel like they were the killer of Sega, not Nintendo, because
Well,
again, Nintendo was still a little bit outdated when it comes to the idea.
a little bit, but they got better. I mean, they definitely got better because
Yeah,
it's to the point we're now getting into the 2000s, which will mix some other stuff in also. So we'll sideline gaming for a minute. What was some stuff that was coming out near
a lot.
the 2000s?
Early 2000. Okay.
I think we're starting to see a tad bit of. Oh no, that's still the same thing.
I think the internet had started to improve.
Yeah, I think
properly.
we're starting to get like modems and like low based modems
modem.
and
I think like Yahoo started to exist also. Like I think Yahoo is the first one like that it was big. Like that was like back then you had to use was like Yahoo when you search for stuff. Oh, and talking about
Yahoo.
chat services back then. Today you have Discord and still Skype sometimes and TeamSpeak.
Imagine how it was
back
when using
then-
AOL and stuff like that. Everybody.
Back then you have like MySpace.
Well, not that.
MSN.
You're a little up in front. We're talking about like IRC chats. That was
Oh,
a
yeah,
little
that's-
different. That
yeah.
was
Oh yeah, that's also I forgot. That is not the thing we had. I was like 2000. I think that I'm
Yeah,
at.
you were boosting into like the mid 2000s in there, but in this point we're going on about like IRC chats, which were kind of a big thing then because at that point Windows was getting like pretty big into it on stuff. We kind of missed a little bit of that where we were talking about DOS before, but Windows was starting to get big, and now we're into that where people kind of use that the most. Some people still use DOS and what formed into Linux later, but anyway. We had and Macintosh. That was obviously a thing too. Macintosh was a thing back then. But to go with the IRC chats, There are plenty of them. I don't really know a lot of their names. I'm pretty sure AOL was one. There was another one, but I don't remember its name. I don't know, but there was a bunch of them. If my friend was in here, he could absolutely tell you, because obviously he knows a lot about it. But there's just a bunch of stuff that was going, and I mean, I guess it was in a way close to seeing that. What is that one game called? My Name is Emily. Was that the name of it? Or what was it called?
What?
That one text game. It was like called My Name is Emily or something.
Yeah, that one. I know which one.
Yeah, it's basically, if you ever play that, they use an IRC client.
Emily's Away.
Oh, Emily's Away. Okay, yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, Emily is Away. Those games, 1 and 2, they both use an IRC chat, which is basically how it was like at that point.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to basically see how that was without looking up like a boring video, there's a game for you to play. Good story too.
There's one on my channel. Check it out.
Do that. Let's see. So move into that. What else in the early 2000s? Not the mid, but the early. Anything that like boosted up, like CRT TVs were still a thing. HD didn't come out till late 2000.
The VOS started to die out in the beginning of. I think it died out in the mid, but I think it started.
VHS. I mean, it basically was dying around then. It
Really?
wasn't. It was still there, but it was starting to die out more.
Yeah, I think like the
Because
final
DVD
movies
was
were
starting
like 2001 or 02 started to like the last movies that actually existed that was around then, like they came out. I still
Yeah.
think you could buy until the mid, but that's like also that then that died out also.
But
yeah, I don't think much more. I think we are in the middle of thing now. Like,
yeah,
unless-
then
no,
I
wait,
guess we can talk
PlayStation-
about where
Didn't PlayStation 2 came out like 2002?
roughly,
In Japan, at least.
I think, yeah.
I think, yeah. So PlayStation, you had the old PlayStation, then you get the PlayStation 2, DualShock
Big
controller,
step.
everything like that.
I mean,
Like,
obviously,
it's
at the time we had the, like I said, I mentioned the original Xbox, which was beating PlayStation 1, obviously, because PlayStation 1 was to compete against the Nintendo 64, and that got beat. Then we get into Xbox, and we skipped something. Nintendo had their GameCube. The
Oh, wait, you said there
GameCube.
was-
I'm pretty sure.
Was that
Maybe it was
01?
2004. I don't know,
Yeah,
but it was
but
basically...
I think PlayStation 2 came first, then the GameCube, because that was like
Maybe, okay,
Yeah,
we'll just say that example. So, okay, we had the PlayStation 2, and it obviously beat everything in that
That's-
sense.
But-
And,
and also it's still one of the most sold consoles.
that it is.
exists.
And
That is so weird if you think about the time span.
it was
because it's-
also the last starting console that did a great boot up sequence.
Yeah, I think then you have 5 years between the 2 and the third one. I think. like,
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, it was the last good one, because we forgot to mention this when we were talking about the first PlayStation, but just imagine booting up your console and you hear that sound effect. Whew, every time I hear that sound effect, even on PlayStation 2, pure freaking nostalgia. Like, oh god, I'm
Yeah,
playing
but
this.
then you also have when the PlayStation gets ready to f up a little bit, and you get into the blue screen stuff, and you see like a nice screen, you're like,
Oh, it's
Is it
even
very
worse when you hit the
fresh? Is it-
red screen, because whenever your disc is like broken or something, and then you get into the red screen, you freak the hell out because it's scary, ominous music, like you just did something completely wrong. You're like, oh my god,
I didn't do it. I promise. I
I didn't
promise.
do it. Like, it's not my fault. I didn't do it. It's just like, oh god, it's so freaky.
Yeah, and back then, like the smallest scratch. Today is not as much. I mean, if you have a lot of scratches, yes, fine. But back then, the smallest scratch could break the whole game.
Pretty much, because these days, like on the newer consoles, we'll mention it more later, but it's just like an ID read. But back then, it's like just absolutely everything was at that point on that disc. So even a tiny little scratch, yeah, it's not really that good. Especially because back then you had the older disc drives, which didn't do too well. They were good, but not that great.
And
and then
Again, now we
eventually,
are in the mid of 2000.
yeah, then we get
Uh,
into the GameCube, by the way, and
yeah, that's 2004 basically, I think.
yeah. So as we mentioned before, we had the compact disc, which was obviously a normal size CD, and which compact disc CD. We had that, and that's what everybody used on the consoles these days. And Nintendo, of course, were stuck with the cartridges, and they're like, okay, how do we change this? Well, they didn't create it. I'm pretty sure there was already a thing, but they used miniature discs. I forgot what they were actually called. I don't know if they're called mini disc or something, but it was just like it was an MD disc, where it's just a little tiny disc put into the GameCube. Really weird to me at that point in time. I was like, this big disc for a PlayStation and Xbox. I'm like, this tiny little disc on a GameCube. I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be so easy to break. I better be careful. Because it's so tiny. I'm like, this is gonna be so easy to break.
But to be honest, it wasn't that easy to break. It was like it was more easy to get.
It was pretty
sprayed.
durable.
It was like, yeah. I mean, most disc back then was pretty durable, but yeah. I mean, the CD could be easily breaking if you had.
I mean, that is the thing also with like the GameCube at that point. The GameCube was trying to show off many different things. Like they were trying to get more into the 3D era because 3D era was already broken with in the Nintendo 64 age when you had like say Super Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time, but those were sort of not that HD, not that grand. You get the Xbox and the PlayStation 2 that are out of this now at the point that we're talking about, and they have these really good looking games. Nintendo needs to step up, and they basically kind of show off that they could do that, like at the E3 demo at the time, because I'm pretty sure E3 was out by then, or was another thing they were doing. But they were trying to show off a Zelda game that they had. It's like, oh, look at the stuff that the GameCube can do when it comes out, and this Zelda game we're gonna make. And it's like super HD Ocarina of Time looking thing. It's like, oh, this is gonna be looking great. Then everybody got disappointed with Wind Waker. It's just funny because Wind Waker is actually really good, but it's just the fact, oh, you showed us that, then you give us a cartoon Link. Okay. But then later you get Twilight Princess, which is what everyone preferred.
Links because he's more adorable than the.
I kind of like that, yeah. I do like that.
Because yes, I get the idea. Yes, he's like the main protagonist of the games, the good guy you have to play with, and you always want that to look good because that's good thing. But when it comes down to it, when you make certain games like or Wind Waker was more of a comedy of the all. Like Ocarina of Time was a little
more like a child, like sort of it was basically the cartoon fashion, which is like, you know, trying to put more of a comedic deal to it, to like having the cartoon effects in a sense, like little smoke or whenever you hit something you would know, or basically every time you would hit something, or, you know, like slash an enemy, it would play a sound effect every time you would hit somebody. So it was just like a different type of game.
Yeah,
it was so good though. And then of course later they had their apology letter with Twilight Princess, but we'll get into that once we get into the later stages of GameCube / that. There's also the time the GameCube. What?
Yeah, but that's happened in the mid. Oh, Facebook happened.
Facebook happened a little later. We're in MySpace right now.
No, 2005 is Facebook.
Well, you didn't really mention MySpace. So the point is, we had MySpace.
Oh, MySpace,
and that was a thing, and it was still there.
MSN and MySpace had back then. Like,
no one really used MSN anymore. It was kind of an older deal, but it was like more MySpace.
Not until after Facebook even existed.
That was your deal. Still, no one used MSN anymore. It was all MySpace and Facebook, which a lot of people didn't really use Facebook.
American thing. We are not Americans. I'm a Swede. We
Good for you. MSN sucks.
We use good stuff.
MySpace is better. We got a freaking. If you go to our page, you could listen to. What is it? We had a bunch of stupid music, like freaking old stuff. Freaking Headstrong Trapped. Breaking Benjamin, where he just had like the most basic rock things that people these days could think of. Like, God, that's old. Like, yeah.
Oh my God.
We had all of that just sitting on our MySpace page. And half the time, that's how people listen to music. They would just go to the music thing and just be like, type in a song name, put it in, and add it to their music library on their page, and they would just use their page to listen to music. That's how that works.
Yeah.
And then MySpace, where you start an account, the first thing you get, you're friended by Tom. You're friended by Tom. He's your only friend.
Like a Tom.
And then
it's like...
and then later, Tom, you've been replaced. You get replaced by some other person, because all Tom is just a bot in a sense, or just a random thing. I mean, yeah, he's the creator of MySpace, but I don't really think you can actually contact him if you message him through that profile. I don't know, but it's just like kind of weird. You start with MySpace, it's like, I just got force friended by the creator. That's kind of weird.
I don't want to be your friend.
Like, I didn't ask for
I'm
this.
lonely, can you be my friend? No! Let me have real friends.
And then there's people who are super lonely, and they're just like, you're my only friend, Tom. Like, wow.
Isn't there a meme? I have seen memes, like, at least last year at least, I saw, like, memes about Tom, like, they made fun of MySpace back then, like,
I'm pretty sure we were
my
thinking
only
of the abridged Dragon Ball, because it was they did a thing with that. Because they were doing a thing like saying MySpace and saying that Piccolo's only friend was Tom. It's not much of a spoiler. It's in the first episode, so go watch if you haven't yet.
Poor
Funny show.
Tom.
Point is,
Only have Piccolo as a friend.
poor guy. But
Wasn't he also hating Tom because it's... No, stop, Tom.
No.
Was it? Oh.
Nah, I wasn't ready to that. But anyway. Great,
Yeah,
I just
and
remembered a
also-
freaking
yeah,
reference.
okay,
I just
and
remembered
then GameCube basically died out like 2 years after it was created. It still was good, but like the idea pretty much died out directly. Like that was the sad part, because now GameCube is actually is technically really popular. But
mainly
when
through
it came
emulation,
out,
but yeah.
yeah. But back when it came out, it wasn't as popular. The game was like not so like today, yes. I don't know what to say, but like then it wasn't that good because people was like, yeah, but we got Sony, we have Xbox, we have PlayStation 2. Like
Then
Nintendo wasn't in the game back then.
not
I
like
think
PlayStation
what-
2 with the EA sports games. It's not in the game, man.
It's in the game.
Yeah, but
It
the GameCube
is
wasn't
in
in the game at that point. But something we forgot to mention in the GameCube point is as you were mentioning earlier, Game Boy Advance was getting hit big. At first, there was the original Game Boy Advance, which obviously was the same as before. You had the games and everything. No backlight, still didn't exist. Then it got adapted into the Game Boy Advance SP, which, oh boy.
I have an SP.
I had one of
Actually,
those. I loved it. I gave it to my cousin because I got a DS later, but we'll get into that. So, I had the Game Boy Advance SP. I was like, oh, this is really good. I don't remember which model I had because there were two models. When the SP came out,
have
the
a
whole
flipping
idea of it was the AGS 100 model, which was, it had the front-lit screen. Finally, an actual official front-lit screen, because before we had the Game Boy Light, but not many people knew about it, so it was kind of scrapped. But then we finally got one in the main series to have a front-lit light. It was great. Didn't do well in sunlight, but still very good for your gameplay needs. Then later you got the AGS 101 model, which gave you the backlit screen, which is what everybody has in every console thing now, or handheld, is a backlit screen, so even in sunlight, you can basically see it. It's great. And at the same time with the GameCube, they created an adapter, the Game Boy Advance adapter, so you can plug it into the bottom, play advanced games on your GameCube, and GameCube games where you could use the link cable on the Advance, play mini games or something. But that was another thing about the Dreamcast I forgot to mention. They did that too. The memory cards were actually little tiny consoles, because you can actually play little mini games on the Dreamcast memory cards. That was a weird time. And you can even plug it into the controller because it had a little slot for it. Search up a Dreamcast controller. Weird looking. Anyway, back to GameCube. That happened. Taking out of the gaming era again, we're going back to where the war between MySpace and Facebook was ending. because Facebook basically came out with an update that overhauled the entire UI and everything, which basically just
Basically made
MySpace just terrible.
lawsuit also. Like
Yeah.
they tried to sue him, and they lost because of, was it the update that made him lose because he made a different thing to it then?
I think, yeah. Because I think MySpace
And
was the real like social media
no, wait, it
website
was
at the
that he
point.
they were no MySpace wasn't the suing company, but there was his friends sued him for using the same ID they had,
Yeah.
and that
Still,
was like, if you have not seen the
Mark
Social
Zuckerberg.
movie, I recommend Social Network. It's a good movie. It just proves that sometimes because someone has same ID as you doesn't make it illegal. It makes it, as long as they don't steal your ID 100%. It's still, because today if you steal someone's ID, they're gonna be like, oh, it's not original. It's fine. That we can't do that. But back 2005, if you stole an ID, they literally sue you for it. Back then, IDs were more precious and more cared about.
I mean,
So,
people still
yeah.
care if you steal ideas these days because earlier in the podcast,
Nintendo.
Nintendo.
Nintendo. I mean,
Yeah.
nothing special.
No.
You know? Don't mention names.
Shouldn't name drop here. But anyway, to continue on with our little misadventures. So yeah, obviously we mentioned the whole VHS thing went out. DVDs are fashion now. What else is the thing? There's something else like actual.
I think we can start turning to the end of the
Like near the ending, but not entirely. We haven't reached it because there's still something else to mention gaming wise. But trying to mention a little bit other stuff.
What is it gaming wise?
Well, after the Game Boy Advance, which surely was after. One thing about the Game Boy Advance, not a lot of people knew. Game Boy Micro. I have one. It broke though, and one of the screws are stripped.
But doesn't
which
it
really
break?
pissed. Well, it's the point that my dog stepped on it and it broke the screen. So
I see how it is.
that's literally how it happened. The screen broke. I got a replacement screen, but one of the screws are stripped, or a couple of them, so I can't actually take it apart because it's stripped. I have to figure another way to get it apart. Or just get another one, which is a lot of money. They're very rare because not a lot of people knew about them. They were like, just whatever, because at the same time as the Micro was made, then you get the new Nintendo console, or handheld, I mean, the DS.
Yes.
The Nintendo DS, the fat version. Oh boy, that guy. Get all these grandiose things, like more Mario Kart, which we didn't mention before, but Mario Kart.
I mean, I don't think Mario Kart got popular until the Game Boy, or it was popular.
No, it's 64. It was like mostly popular in 64. I mean, Super Mario Kart was good in SNES, but 64 Mario Kart was the main popular one. And then GameCube, like Double Dash Mario Kart, hella popular, very much. Yes, I used the word hella.
I feel like Mario Kart died out after, like, the DS one wasn't as popular, but
Yeah, the DS one was kind of not that good. I mean, yeah, it's kind of weird how the way they work that out, because in the DS one, obviously the DS has a lower resolution, which means not a lot of stuff you could do, but the models were a little bit brightened up and the textures were better made, so there was that. Also, Super Mario 64 got a DS port, or sort of a remake-ish type of deal, because there was a different type of story. Story was the same, mechanics were different, but you got that kind of stuff. Then people complained because you have the fat version of the DS, which I forgot to mention, the DS can play both the DS games and Game Boy games. Can't play color, I don't think. No, cannot. Cannot play color. So, the Game Boy Advance SP, the Game Boy Advance and SP could play color games, but not DS. So anyway, can't do that. Had Game Boy Advance games, could play those. And, eventually we got into when they created the DS Lite, because people got tired of the fat edition. They made a little tinier one, little skinnier guy. Yeah, that.
people still probably complain about that, and you're like,
They probably
why?
did. I mean, a lot of people weren't too big a fan of the clamshell design of the SP, which is what translated into the DS, because it's easy to break rather than just a flat console. So it just kept going on that way, but whatever.
Welcome to the internet, guys. Oh, it's too small. It's too big. Like
now you're just
Don't
talking about a
complain.
different side of the internet. If you think
No,
about that,
that's just basically everything. Like
it's just
everything
complaining.
today. And back then
Complaining
it's like,
is the internet.
yeah, like, oh, but this doesn't work like this. And even if they do, I go to figure, they're like, yeah, no, it's not good enough.
Right, stubborn kids. But so of course around that time we have the next generation of consoles. We get the Xbox 360, the
and the
Nintendo
PS3.
Wii, which
The Nintendo Wii was good for its because it was good for its time.
it was good for its time. But let's say this: there was the 360 and the PS3, which were the golden pieces of the generation. Which I know a lot of people hated the 360, like they wanted to play the PS3 at that point, but to me it was backwards. Like the PS3 had so many issues for me. There were so many weird problems with it that I had to play in the 360, because just like it, because we owned a PS3 first, in my family, like we actually owned that before we got the 360, and then it's like there was kind of some issues with it and everything.
Well, you're telling me your
I wouldn't know what you said. Your mic just broke all intensively at that point. So repeat.
Wow, your opinion is wrong.
I don't know, but at the same time, that's another thing about when Call of Duty got big around that point. I hated the controls. It made no sense. L1 and R1 were aim and shoot. L2 and R2 were to throw the grenade or like throw the grenades, like the tactical or the other one, whatever.
Yeah.
Combat. Like it was that type of deal. It was like, what are these controls? It's so much different than using a trigger for that kind of thing on the 360. So I just favored 360 much more. There was some good PS3 stuff that I definitely wish were on the 360, and vice versa. Stuff on the 360 I wish was on PS3. But there was all that kind of stuff. And then the Wii came out shortly after those two, and was kind of Nintendo's way to say, hey, we're competing, but they were not doing good.
Yeah, I mean, it was good, but like, I don't think people like that. But anyways, like,
Yeah, and it's just like, I mean, it wasn't really that good because it couldn't handle as much as those other two could. I mean, yes, we got some kind of good games on the Wii, like, you know, you had Super Mario Galaxy games, those were really good. What else? Skyward Sword came out a little later, like pretty much way later, but in the Wii's lifespan, but that was kind of good. It had some
I
issues.
must be right back. Still talk about the games.
Alright, okay,
Be right
going
back.
off. So, basically a lot of all that happened, and he just couldn't handle it, so the Wii just wasn't a good enough thing at that point. And well, I kind of don't want to keep on this point, because I figure he could add some stuff to this, but I guess I'll talk about it and probably come back at that point. Or he has his headset on and he can hear me. I doubt he has a wireless one. Anyway, let's keep talking about this. At this point in time, we were still using the CRT TVs, so we still had like the AV cables, like let's say yellow, white, and red, so we could use that. Of course, we also had another type of cables at that point, because beforehand, I forgot to mention this, completely forgot, we used to use coaxial cables for all of our video inputs. So that's what we used to use all the time on the older consoles, and then they got translated into the AV cables. That was a little definition upgrade. No, wait. Scratch that. It was coaxial cable, S-video composite, I think? So, that type of deal. Then it became two different types of AV. There was the yellow, white, and red, and then there was red, blue, green. Wait. Green, blue... What was it? I think it was red, blue, green, then another red and white. The red and white were audio, and then those three itself were the video. That was basically to show that it was a higher definition. That was their try and attempt to be like, oh hey, this is high definition gameplay or whatever. And yeah. So basically at the time we were using the yellow, white, and red. You back now?
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
I remember. The PlayStation 2 and stuff like that you had to use RGB.
I mean, even well, that was the other thing, because the RGB was the, as I mentioned before, the red, green, and blue, and then you had also a separate red and white for the audio, and that was like their type of way to say it was HD versus the other one, which was yellow, white, and red. So there was two different type of cables. The latter being okay, it did okay. I think it got up to 480p. Maybe it did worse. I don't remember. But then like you could upscale the other ones into like 720 or 1080 in later times. You could do that now, but that kind of stuff. Then at that point, like now that we got down to the PS3 and Xbox 360 and all that, this is around the time in technology when HD TVs were being standardized. At this point, they started to get standardized. So
because the consoles was in HD.
I mean, they were getting to that point, yeah. So CRTs were now dying, probably around the point of being dead, and we were getting HD TVs around for everybody. So we get HDMI instead. Of course, it took me a long time to get an HDMI or an HD TV. I was still stuck with a CRT for like the longest time.
Hey,
like, the first thing I got.
What is it?
I mean, the first time I got an HD TV was the monitor that I'm using on my little computer right now. It's just a little HD monitor. Like, it's still a TV, but it's like 15 or 19 inches. I don't remember which. I think it's one of those.
Yeah, the
But
HD TVs and stuff. And not only that, this is also the beginning of the smartphone also.
Oh yeah, because we forgot to mention that about the phone thing. Because before we were in phones and we had that, it went from phones to what were they called? No, not. We basically have flip phones. So we had.
Like, forget to mention the most important phone ever existing.
The mini phone, where it's just
Nokia.
like very freaking tiny. But that was one thing. Then we had
I'm
Nokia
talking about
phones.
the Nokia. The 3310 or whatever it's called.
Yeah, Nokia phones. If you want to destroy that phone, be my guest. Good luck, because that was an indestructible phone.
Like, if you throw in the phone at the wall is breaking instead of the phone. Like,
Yeah.
they made so much fun. Like, they should make a tank.
There's
out
even
of
a
Nokia
Star
phone
Wars
instead.
meme. There was even a Star Wars meme where it's just like, I hear they made the Death Star truly indestructible this time. It's like, I'll believe it when I see it. Shows a Nokia phone. It's like, yep, we're screwed. Like, yep. Oh man.
Wasn't that a Family Guy thing they did?
No, that was just a random Star Wars meme. But speaking of, I forgot to mention that the movies and their definition changes. It's not much to explain, but back in the 80s, you had movies, and the biggest like actual project would be Tron, because it was like the most advanced digital movie ever at that point in time.
As we are at the end era of the 2000 Avatar, the high budget movie that came out.
Yeah.
2009.
Not Airbender Avatar, Pandora Avatar, James Cameron. Yeah.
That is I think it's still the most high budget movie. No, Avatar 2 is gonna be the most high budget movie.
I don't know, but the thing about that movie is the fact that it went from. It's so crazy that this is the only movie I can think of that did it. Which, of course, other movies did it later. Like, let's say, for example, the prequels for Star Wars in the early days. They had that, then they re-released them at some random points in the years. But it got to the point where Avatar was made, and then a year later they put it straight back into theaters because of how good it was. Just 1 year passing, they put it back in theaters. No movies really does that these days. And even, say, a good movie, like let's say Endgame, for example. Again, not gonna spoil, but you have Endgame, very good movie. They're most likely not gonna put it back in theaters next year. There'd be no point to. But
Yeah.
Avatar, they did that. They put it 1 year after, put it straight back in theaters, even though it was already on DVD. It's like, oh hey, you can go to theaters and watch it now again. It was just that big of a movie at the time.
I feel like back in the day, back when we actually watched theater more and more, like that was the thing we did, because
Yeah, back then when it was
Blu-rays
more
and
theaters.
stuff like
I mean,
that was expensive.
DVDs were. I mean, DVDs themselves weren't that expensive, but the players, yeah, they were pretty expensive.
Yeah.
So
to get the days was cheap. Like you could buy it maybe about $10 if you're lucky, but the
Maybe
player
20 even. Player could be
but
up
the player
there.
was like up 100 almost, if not.
I don't know if it was that much, but it's just the point that it was.
Up in that, but we are rich people. We are a bit nice,
Sure you are. Just the guy with a computer with no dedicated GPU. But anyway.
Yeah, I said we were back in the day. We're not now.
Sure. Anyway, so we keep going with this. Okay, we're at the HDTV era, and this is around the point when they tried a new format, HD DVD. Wasn't really a good format, and it did not last long. It was just like a little hidden gem that happened to where they made a certain type of DVD player that's like, oh hey, HD movies, because at the time we were running like 480p.
Yeah, wasn't that the Blu-ray?
No, it was before the Blu-ray. It was just the HD DVD, and it was just to make it like that. Didn't sell well, didn't go very well. It was like too stupid and made no sense because they were still using the DVD format, so they needed to make something better. And then they came up with the dual discs type of deal, which is what Blu-ray came with. And that was moving on a little bit into I'm pretty sure we're in the 2010s at this point where we hit Blu-ray. So at that point, yeah, we got Blu-ray. That happened. We also skipped a little bit of something that kind of happened, but we don't talk about it too much. Start of YouTube.
Oh.
Hello.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's
YouTube started.
We have already trashed it now.
Yeah, we trashed it
We
enough.
need to trash it.
Well, okay, we'll say this.
Actually,
The start
to
of
be
YouTube,
honest,
great. Very great. Even
Up
when
to
Google
the-
bought it, still kind of good. It was still doing pretty good. It just, once it gets into the later 2010s, that's when it starts breaking into many pieces.
Around where we are now, basically, I think
The
we know
first,
some-
when Google
know how
first, full forced itself into YouTube. Before, it was just it was a property of Google. But now it's like, YouTube is Google.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so basically, we started to transgress into 2010 right now because, and I don't think we need to take
Oh,
too much in.
2010. Good year for me.
What happened? Oh, what?
Tron Legacy. Neutron. Oh, and we also missed a little bit of other stuff that did happen in the movie type of deals. Before we had 3D movies, which would use the anagraph,
Red
is that what
and
it's
white?
called?
The
It was a red and
green
blue.
glasses?
No, it was red and blue in some case. Okay, there were three different types. There were 3 different types of colors that they'd use in movies. You had red and blue, which was one of them, and it would use those different colors to have your eyes tell you, show the 3D aspect. Before they had this on just pictures on in books. Then they translated to movie format. Let's just say it kind of gave you a headache afterwards. Also, a colored filter on the screen really doesn't help a lot. It kind of sucks. So, you had red and blue. Then there was red and pink, hot pink. Not really red. No, green and hot pink is what I'm going to say. Yeah.
I don't know. It was
green and
or
hot.
something.
It's green and hot pinkish type of deal. Then they had blue and yellow. There was those types, and I always wanted to find those glasses because those were the hardest ones to track down. But the blue and yellow ones were the latest edition of it. It was just hard to find. Then at this point in time during when I mentioned 2010 and Tron Legacy, we had the new format, Real 3D, which we still use today. Real 3D, which basically just has a little bit built in to the deal, because what they do now is they have just the image split off a little bit. In a sense, it's different fading. It's just it's split a little bit from the base image. I don't really know a good way of explaining that, but they do that, and the glasses basically just form it back in, and it creates a 3D effect. In a sense, it's a holographic, what the holographic pictures do. It's some sort of similar to that. But, yeah, that kind of effect, but using the glasses.
Yeah.
Then, shortly afterwards, there was a gaming idea, which was great, but they never followed through with it, which I got pissed off about. because they never followed through with it. I saw demos at stores, like kiosks and everything. It was awesome, where they had these glasses that you could put on for a game console, and it was a 3D thing, but it had buttons on the top, so it would connect to, I think it was limited to PS3 at the time, and they were demoing a racing game. Basically, it was a split-screen game. You could see on the actual screen it was split screen, and then when you put the glasses on, it had a different feed. So it would be like a 3D effect, and the glasses would only pick one of those 3D like parts. So you could have local co-op 2 people with a full-sized screen because of those glasses. You could pick which player on the glasses. It never happened. We're still stuck with split-screen games, and we don't have a full-screen effect for each player.
And that we never mentioned in back in the day, because if you local gameplay back then was also a thing. Now local gameplay doesn't exist.
I mean,
That's so. Yeah, but it's not like as common. Like
it's not common because people just don't think it is. I mean, the way it worked before is like you had couch gameplay. You had a couch co-op where it was 2 controllers or 2 to 4 controllers plugged in.
Back then.
Yeah, people would come over and play the games with you. I mean, that was obviously a thing since the Nintendo Entertainment System, or even the Atari. You could play on another controller, so that was a thing. But then
that is also what happened under 2000. I would say is like we started to go out less. Like we didn't go out like meeting with friends only. We like
depends. Because I mean, we started getting online games and everything, but at the same time, there was the other bit of LAN parties. Those definitely existed because which is basically
that we still have that in Sweden. We have one in Jönköping.
I would love to go to a LAN party. Like they still exist right now for a lot of the newer games and even some classics. I would just love to go to one. I mean, I know I mentioned earlier in like this is off topic, but in a Discord like group DM me and Sweet are in, I mentioned something about how I'm not a big fan of parties, but LAN parties? That's a different story. That'd be really cool because you just basically
talk with people freely.
True. But basically, the way the LAN party would work is you either connect each console to the same network, or you have like a LAN adapter box in a sense, where everyone plugs it into that, and then there's like an option in the game to where you can play, say, 16 players, 4 players per console. So you have 4 different consoles sitting there, and you can play 16 players just all around. Or you could have more and just like do a couple players per console or whatever. The point is, that'd be LAN play. These days, it's mostly just local network. So, you're connected to a Wi-Fi or something, or you're connected through a cable, and you all just play like that. But back in the day, it was mainly plugging into like a box, like each person plugging into a box, and then that happens. But the point is, that was great.
We're getting into the era now where we live now. 2010 up to now is an era, in my opinion, as long as I have lived, it's the worst era to have lived in because
it's the lazy era. We'll just say that.
Yeah, I mean, so I have talked about it because this early 2000. We can stop with that. Everyone remembers the Mayan calendar back in the day that the Earth it ended in a way that we don't see because we are so snug up at the end of the world means that everything's gonna get destroyed. But the real ending is the primitive era to the digital era, because we have gone from the primitive, like being outside a lot, to actually be more inside, being more and the social in this era. We are social, but in a different way. It's more digital now. We have phones, we have everything now. So 2012, the Earth ended. In a sense, we don't say. We killed off the old ways. We killed off basically the ways of how we do stuff. Because you can call a taxi on your. Really call a taxi anywhere you want, but like.
If you want to go to the
90s,
old times,
like
just go to an Amish country.
Phone box. If you wanted to call something back in the day, you had a phone box. You had to go to a phone box, if you were out in the wild and you didn't own a phone. You
Now
had to
it's
go
just
to
a
a
payphone.
phone box.
That's just a payphone that's attached to a wall, and you still have to put quarters and crap in,
Yeah.
but not as fancy.
No, but now you literally like, oh damn, I don't know where I am. I'm gonna check up the map on my phone.
Yep. And those like, oh, I don't have service or anything, you still got Wi-Fi built into that phone. Just go to a place that hosts free Wi-Fi. That's the thing that happened around afterwards. We started getting more and more. Well, okay, we didn't mention much of Wi-Fi in a sense. It went from only local
I mean, Wi-Fi
to up to Wi-Fi, but yeah.
wasn't too big.
Oh, it was a big
2000.
thing. It was a big thing, when it came out.
Yeah, at least late, but like, I would say
It stopped
because
becoming a
it was
big
more-
thing around when like actual things demanded it. Like let's say when the 360 and all that stuff came out. Like
yeah.
I mean, obviously, all that stuff didn't come built in with Wi-Fi adapters. You actually had to get the adapters, or you had to do other
Buy a
stuff.
later version that actually had.
Yeah, actually build it in, but yeah. Oh, nothing about the 2010s? Connect. The 360 Connect.
Yeah, did that come out?
Oh
too?
boy. I don't
Was
know
that
when it
20
came
Connect?
out. I think it was, because that's when they started selling the slim versions of the 360. I think.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh boy, that Connect. The whole promise of controller-free gameplay where you could just use your body. I know that sounds wrong also, but it just you just move your body, and there's your controller. You can use your hands as a freaking controller, like a dang steering wheel, and you look like a stupid idiot. Seriously, you can watch a video of somewhere it doesn't even show the screen. You see someone playing the Kinect, you're looking at that like, that looks so freaking insane. You'd think talking to yourself looks insane. Try looking at those dudes.
Yeah, and then you have people playing in VR. If you see like certain videos online where they like take out the gameplay and show just the camera of them playing, it looks so dumb because they have a headset on them and just smack around them.
Yeah, that much looks stupid. But
What are
again,
you doing?
with Kinect, it's just like, what the hell? And half the time it didn't even work. That was the bad part of it. Like, oh, it works. Like, it's so good. And it's like, you just put your hand up and all of that, which there was even a thing on the 360 where if you put your hand and you wave, it signs you in. It's like, eh? And then back in the day, the worst thing ever, Xbox off, or Xbox turn off. Like, no. That was more of an Xbox One thing when it came out, but 360 was still kind of there.
Yeah.
Kind of a point bad.
Like that around. Then I think it's like, was it 12? I think 12. If we also was when PlayStation 4 came out, or was it 13?
No, it was still more. It was like 2014.
Yeah. So we're still like
2013,
early
2014,
2010. Not
but-
much had happened except in a lot better.
Again, some
Internet
upgrades in
was
definition.
The internet upgraded, of course, more and more for every year that came, but like,
Yeah.
and I would say we now had internet almost everywhere we live.
Oh, I forgot to mention the hidden gem of the Wii Mini. The one thing nobody knows what the hell it was, or what its purpose was.
Like everything else Nintendo does in the end.
Because
like
they had the Wii, which was perfectly fine. There was really nothing wrong with it. And I forgot another thing the Wii had. It had a GameCube adapter. You could put in a GameCube disc, and at the top there was like ports to plug into GameCube controllers, and you could play your GameCube games on your Wii. So that was backwards compatible. Then you had the Wii Mini, took all those features away. It was just a Wii thing. And it was just a little tiny black and red, like black box with red accents. That was it. And you're just like sitting there like, why do I want this? Why would I want this? It's just something they made.
Why do you exist?
I don't know.
What are you good for, man?
Yeah. And then afterwards, we didn't get the Xbox One PS4 yet. In the DS region, we kind of got 3DS. I think. I think they're just came out at this
That's
point.
the thing with 3DS also, is like, no one knows when they come out. Was it also around the time the Wii U came out?
Basically, because they were more of a linked type of system.
Yeah, and that was also a thing nobody was like asking for. Like,
No,
oh, here you have
well, it's not that nobody was asking for the Wii U or anything. It's just no one knew about it because it was so badly marketed. It was terrible marketing on Nintendo's part. I mean, think about it this way. Someone just like, oh, Wii U, it just shows the gamepad. They don't show anything else about the console. Just the gamepad. Like, the Wii U, you could do all this stuff. And you're just like, so it's an add-on for the Wii. No, it's a whole new console. It's called the Wii U. So basically, it's a tablet that you connect to your Wii. No, it's a whole new console. It can even play Wii games, but it also has Wii U. So it's a Wii, but new games. No, it's like there's so much wrong with it. And then they're like, oh hey, you can even use like the whatever the Wiimotes that were with other thing. No, just nobody got it. Nobody understood what it was. Just thought it was a new thing for the Wii. Didn't buy it. Terrible marketing.
Like, really
sold poorly.
Game. Like really late game it come out, and that was like, oh, we should probably have done better. Like.
Yeah, and then afterwards they started putting more stuff on it. Like say Super Mario Maker and all that crap. That's later into the life, but all that stuff happened, and then everyone's like, oh, this is a new thing. Cool, because they didn't know it yet. But then we get into what you were mentioning.
The 2014 to 2016, basically, that was PlayStation, PlayStation 4, Xbox.
Xbox
we
One,
started
which,
to. What was there around here?
That was a rough start.
The start of. Here is, I would say, around now, the smartphones are what we have today, but still, like. Because they,
well, yeah. Because around 2010ish or so, we did have obviously the smartphone, but still kind of limited. Couldn't do too much with it, but still pretty good.
I think around 2014, 2015.
Ooh, that's when the actual iPod touches were things. That was
yeah.
That was nice.
Wait, iPod still existed?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like around 2014, 2015, you have the smartphone we have today, like the PC smartphone. Like it's actually a computer in your piece in your phone, basically. Like you can do everything from your phone today. Like that began around then. Like everything, it was like meant for you to be able to do anything from just sitting in your couch at home. There was no like, oh, you have to go out to get it. Like, oh, do you want to order a thing from a place? Oh, just use your phone. That was like, that's the beginning of the laziness also. Like we start to go into the lazy era.
Yeah. Oh yeah, around then I think is when Uber actually first really started. So at that point,
yeah.
Hey guys, remember taxis? Those yellow cabs that would come by, and you could take it, you could pay them to take you somewhere.
That was, like,
now we have an internet version of this, which is just anybody who wants to be an Uber driver, you can. Just hey, I want to be an Uber driver. Cool, you're hired. Go.
Okay, so that's so ironic because like, oh, he has a legitimate license. Oh, I like this guy. He looks good. He doesn't have a license about being a taxi driver. I don't care. He's good looking, man. Who cares about those? Also, it feels like it's going from like. It feels like it's taking a thing on racism, like because most people that knows, even here in Sweden, like the most taxi drivers in Sweden are foreigners. It's not like Swedish people, it's like foreigners. It feels like with an upgrade to Uber, that was like meaning that anyone could take a license, get a free license for, as long as you had a car, you could literally drive anyone.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, it starts to become really that the laziness began around then.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what I don't understand, like, is it how much cheaper is it to buy an Uber than a taxi?
What about? Because
Yeah, but like,
well, I mean, I don't really know, but I don't know. At least with an Uber, it's just like it's freaking. I don't know. That thing is just like a lot.
I'd rather pay a lot more money, knowing that the guy can't do anything, unless they when I get sued.
Well, obviously,
Like,
taxi
that
is
is the
still
thing.
going to be pretty messy, but when it comes to an Uber, though, it's just like it still feels sketchy to me. Just randomly calling out some random person who just randomly probably got the job yesterday, put a sticker in his car on his car because taxis you have to get company cars, but with his car, drives on down, just be like, call an Uber, get in. Half the time, they're like, oh, backseat. And there's some of the people like, oh, hey, front seat, like, screw you, backseat. Just get in that. And then drive to where you're going, and just like, you don't know how the hell this is going to end up. I mean, you never know how it went with taxis either.
Do you know, I have heard so many stories about people getting lost because, like, you have, this is now later stage though, but still Uber, but you have Uber Eating or whatever it was called, like, you can get
Uber Eats.
Yeah, you can order food. People have heard stories like they getting lost trying to find your house. I'm like, do you know what a map is?
I mean, like, hey, it really depends, because when people try to put my address into a GPS, it actually points them to a wrong direction. And then there's someone else I know who basically does the same thing. It tells them to take another road before they're supposed to, and that leads them to an entirely different area. So, that's one thing I kind of hate about GPSs these days, which, by the way, that's another thing we forgot to mention. GPS, Global Positioning System, point. I'm pretty sure that's what that means. But, that kind of became a thing, happened. Also, Google Earth. That was cool back in the day. Still kind of is, but not as interesting. But, yeah. Basically had that type of stuff.
What more happened around the mid-10? Not much, actually.
I mean, not really. It's just basically all the same differences. I mean...
Yeah, exactly. Like, that was the era also YouTube started to go downhill. Like, it started... I would say 17 is when they started to go downhill, but 16 is, like, the beginning. But, like, the 17, 18, 19 is where they, like...
Was it 2016 or 17 that was the worst year ever for everyone? Like, there was this one year where everyone in the world felt the exact same, that it was a terrible year. I forgot what it was. I think it was 16. I mean, no, because there was a point where there was like a year where every single person just randomly thought that's a terrible year. Like, it's a horrible freaking year that just happened because just a bunch of stuff just kept going down. Like, it wasn't good at all. I think it was like 16 or 17.
Yeah, I know 18 was not very popular either. Like, people hated 18.
I think it was 6. I think it was 16. Like, 16 was known as the worst.
16 and 18
17 was people thought it would be pretty good, and then it's like, no, not really. 18 was like, this isn't going very well, and now 19 we're sitting here like, let's hope.
Praise the Lord. Praise any Lord, actually. Like,
praise anybody you believe in. Let it be a good year. Or if you don't believe in anybody, I don't know, just hope, I guess. Just be like, hey, let it be good. Do something.
I mean, yes, but like, yeah, and this industry didn't change too much from in the mid, like, yes, you got better phone. That was like, basically it.
Main thing that's going right now is DVD players are dead at this point.
Oh yeah.
DVDs themselves, I mean, DVDs themselves aren't dead because it's still cheaper than a Blu-ray, but DVD players are dead. Yeah, you can't really find those much anymore.
You can use your... Actually, I would say DVD in general is dead because you can use your PC. I think the mid was also like the time...
but not many people have a Blu-ray drive on their PC. It's the point that just...
I'm talking about...
I know digital, but we're not into that point yet. We're talking about just this little point of where people still kind of use DVD and Blu-ray.
Yeah, I think there was like more the stuff that happened. Like, if you had that, you were like, okay, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, it's just the point that DVD was basically dying at this point. Still kind of is dying. It's still here. We still have DVDs, but it's just the players are gone. Cause
it's like on this. It's like on the last breath. It's like, you know, that guy you shoot 100 times that doesn't want to die.
These days,
like,
you can just buy.
Die.
You could just play it on your computer if it has a disc drive, like the actual. A desktop will most likely have one, unless you bought like a pre-built where the case doesn't have one in there. Then that's your thing. Or if you have a laptop that doesn't have it, laptops don't come with disc drives anymore, but they used to. Yeah. Then, or if you have a game console.
Yeah, DVD is literally on the last breath.
Yeah,
it doesn't want to die.
Because the main disc thing now is Blu-ray, because I don't know if there's someone out there who hasn't tried to play some off a Blu-ray versus a normal disc. You need to, because there's a huge difference. in playability. Also, the thing is, a lot of digital, they don't really reach that same thing for me. I see a Blu-ray player performing way better than a lot of the digital stuff I have.
Like, but I think that has with us as people, as you and me being, again, we have lived through like the death of 4 different eras basically.
A lot of eras, a lot of generations going down.
Yeah, and even the DVD is technically dead, but like we are like the final generation that care about the nostalgic about that, because otherwise it's like that's going down also. We already have the Xbox Sad, literally called Sad because it's not gonna.
I mean, it's the Xbox One S all digital edition, which I don't know why in the world they thought that was a good idea. You could have just said Xbox One
because
S
they
digital,
already know.
or something, but it's just, I mean, I don't think that it was on purpose. I don't feel like it was on purpose to say, hey, this is the Xbox Sad edition. I don't think that was their intention until afterwards. Like, you know what, screw it, we already made this name, patent pended, we gotta put it out. So it went down there.
They just got to get like someone better idea name, please. There's an issue here. It's called Sad.
Well, that's the thing. Once it comes down to it, like once you make the name and the patent's already been made for it, you can't change it. It's already set in stone.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think
you can make projects.
With a better name before the end.
You can make like a project name for it. Like, let's say the Xbox One X, for example, is called Project Scorpio to start with, but then they changed it to that.
They should have kept Scorpio because that sounds much better than Xbox X.
It does sound pretty cool. Which I honestly hope the next gen thing, which we'll get into in a minute, but also another thing that happened around the time of the 2010s, like VR became a big thing.
Yeah.
Because
like that's also made the 2000.
I mean, first we just had the normal stuff like Google Cardboard, where it's just like, you know, like it obviously it can either be the cardboard thing, or it could just be like a little plastic thing, put a phone in, or just like somehow connect a thing to it. Wasn't really big. It was just something cool to have. Then we got the big ones.
Yeah, and now we have like we almost, I would not say that if people don't believe it, but I would not say we are not 100% too far from a full dive.
I still don't see that exactly gonna happen, because that has to go into your brain for that.
Yes, but
we have
the technology.
To your brain. I mean, I don't.
The thing is, I think it's gonna be the issue is to implement it in a good way, so it doesn't both damage you as a person, because
I'm sure they're working on the idea. Obviously, I'm sure someone in the government or something is working on the idea of a full dive system.
Especially the government.
Especially the government, because people, I mean, the government these days use VR as a military training system. It's a full thing you can do, and it works perfectly fine.
And they even, now I'm gonna go into a little bit, but in SAO Alternative Gun Game Online, they even show that like the military is gonna use that stuff for training. Like, what can we are they're sending a team in the game, like, and try out like how is this formation gonna work. Even if it's just a game, it's like, yeah, we still gonna be like, we're gonna have to test how it works, because everyone works differently. So
I mean, it makes sense, because in the point of that show, the guns in the game are supposed to resemble actual real guns in every way. So
yeah, and they say they got beaten by a girl in pink.
Look how that works. Anyway,
like how do you tell that to the boss? Like, you know that training session, we lost a girl in pink. She was like 2 centimeters high.
Funny costume. Anyways, so that's that. I don't know. When it comes down to it, there's a lot of stuff that can basically happen. I was gonna mention something else about the. We were talking about the Xbox and everything. Beforehand, we were talking about the new stuff.
Generation, to be honest, like we are basically going to the future.
Right now. The future generation, like, you know, the. See, the thing that kind of, I mean, I didn't get to mention this when we were talking about the Xbox One, where a lot of people were confused and had a rough start. I want to mention this real quick enough, but it had a rough start to the point because they didn't know what the hell they were doing. It started with the whole idea of, oh, hey, I don't need to like this is how it works. Like with a game, you put in a disc, it's instantly yours, and it's set to your console. It won't work on anyone else's console. So that kind of breaks the idea of selling it back because it's forever yours now, and you can't give it to your friends. And it's funny because Sony even made a joke commercial which aired that showed them be like, oh hey, this is how you share games on your PS4 controller. Gives them the disc, it's like, hey, here you go, friend. Thank you. And it just like turns to the camera and smiles. That's it. That's the commercial. It's just, that was a way to make fun of Xbox for their stupidity. They received such bad press for it, they had to redo that, and they had to make it to where normal consoles should be. I don't know why the original thing was a thing.
They released it like a year later, didn't they? They released it like a... Wasn't it trying to come out around the same time as the PlayStation, but...
I don't think it was a year later. I think it was just like a few months later. It wasn't much. But
actually, it was like a year later.
Well, I don't know. But...
we have a discussion in a server about this once. That the PS4 and the Xbox One was released because...
it's only, see, that's the... To me, I think that's the only reason why the PS4 sold better was just because of Xbox One's rocky start. That's it. Because as time's progressed, the One has has a lot more features than the PS4 does. It does. Yeah, but that was
it is more for... because it was released later and they could actually do stuff that the PS4...
I mean, can you imagine how that is?
Probably add
like, so can you imagine just how that is for them, just like randomly saying that, oh hey, backwards compatibility is... No, I was just saying that, like, in this sense, they're like, oh, backwards compatibility is impossible. We can't really do that. We can't have a 360 game run on the One because it's not even the same engine or same stuff, so it can't happen. Give it a couple years later, boom, there we go. 360. Made it, works perfectly fine. There's some problems, but it works pretty well. And then afterwards, they added original Xbox compatibility. Every Xbox console can basically be played in one, or game can be... Okay, not all. I'm saying that, in theory, we could have it to where all could be played in one console. PS4, no backwards compatibility except for streaming the game, which no one wants to do that. And the PS2 to PS4 games, those are just ports. There's nothing different about that. But, yeah, they're just bad enough you have to actually rebuy or subscribe to that when the 360 or original Xbox game, you just insert the disc, good to go. Or if you download it off the 360 store, good to go. Yeah. And then, what was it? Now to go on about, as we're talking about the future gen, the Xbox is kind of going in a different way. A lot of people are like, oh, is it going to be the Xbox 2? Like, oh, screw you guys. Because it's... People never got that.
Perfect idea. Like,
people never got that, though. That's the thing. Like, everyone's like, why is it called the Xbox One when it's the third in the series? Like, that's not why it's called the One. It's called the One because it's an all-in-one entertainment. That was their plan for it. Because it even has a TV tuner plug in the back, where you can plug it into your cable box and watch TV through your Xbox.
It's like not the best name to shoot.
I know, it's bad marketing because no one understood the idea of it.
Should have gone with Scorpio.
That was the X that they should have went with, but I'm saying in general that when it comes down to it, the people these days, they are... I'm sorry to say this, anybody's listening? Most people these days are really the worst at freaking listening or understanding things. They're absolutely freaking terrible at it.
Hey.
Because when it comes to marketing, you guys are idiots half the time. Not all of you. Some of you are really freaking smart, and others are just pretty much pretty smart. You're good. But then you got freaking...
don't do like Blizzard did. This is mobile. Like, oh, you don't have a mobile?
Yeah, that was kind of weird. It's like you guys don't have mobile phones? What? Like, dude, not everybody has like $100 to dish out, and certainly not everybody has $700 to $1,000 to dish out for the newer phones. But
like, that's like really attack the poor people. Like, oh, you don't have a phone.
Yeah, I know we're in the late 2010s. We're about to enter 2020, but seriously. And
we still have poor people.
I know. And then we have...
That is fake.
Yeah. And then, of course, like I was mentioning, we have the next gen thing with Xbox. They've already mentioned in a way where they're going to be, what one of the things is going to be called. It's the Xbox Scarlet, which I think still connects to the One in a sense, but it's a streamer console. So in a sense, it's going to be, I mean, we mentioned this in a previous thing, but it's basically just going to be, streaming games to it, which is for the cheaper people. So, they can't afford like a higher up console. They can buy this and it just streams the games to it. So I'm all good with that.
It's
That's fine.
basically a Game Pass console. Is it what you're saying?
Kind
Like,
of, but I mean, Game Pass isn't streamable. It's not a streamable product. That's a downloading product. This, I don't think it's gonna have like a hard drive to download to. It's gonna be all streaming. So it's basically so you can save money on it.
Yeah.
So any games you have, you can basically stream over to it, which is basically where this Project xCloud thing is coming from. You can stream stuff to it. Scarlet would just be a base console to use in that case. But it'd be basically like getting a Steam box or something. Like those, there's no onboard games. You can't download onboard games. It's all streamed too. So that's what this would be. And then PS5. Well, they're thinking about doing backwards compatibility to have 4 backwards compatible. Then there were rumors saying that 3 might be. 2, I don't know. But that's
2,
a possibility.
to be honest, if you can get the 2 is more important than 3.
3 wasn't really much of good games, and mainly all the good games on the 3 were remastered onto the 4. Like Last of Us, Uncharted, and all that stuff. Those were remastered to the 4 and all that.
So
and Marvel vs. Capcom stuff, that's on the 4. So, no worries.
And talking about this,
Ooh,
I think we're gonna have to round up a little bit because this is 4 hours.
It is about to be 5 in the morning. And I'm deadly thirsty, but I'm gonna go to sleep very soon after we end this stream, so I just need to get like a tiny drink or something, because I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, so basically, I was like, oh my god, we streamed unusually long. But
hey, I told you this was gonna be a long topic. Like, this was gonna be a really long one.
We already knew this because I said that we're gonna have to use it at the end because this is gonna end us.
This is gonna be the ending topic because it's like, it is such a long topic to talk about. Yeah, and I knew after we were done, we would just be like tired.
And I want to mention one thing I mentioned in the beginning of this topic is that today's parents is also the worst kind of people. Because the moment something goes wrong with your kid, not all, but most of them today, it's like something goes wrong with the kid, it's the internet's fault, not their fault. The internet's fault.
What was that called again? Gamergate?
Yeah, I don't
Gamegate
know,
or something like that. I don't know. It was that thing. It was that movement to where, like, basically saying, "Oh, games violence. Like this game's violence is causing our kids to become violent themselves." Like, no, you are wrong. It's called bad parenting that does that.
Yeah, if you
like,
let the kid play the game,
this kid's well, it's not really that. It's just like, let's say they're playing Doom, for instance. Like, oh, playing this, it's super violent and everything. It's like, oh, it's gonna make my kid violent. He's gonna become a rageaholic, all this other stuff. And then you have like the parents fighting in the next room, just like, you think the game's doing it? Look what you're doing. You're basically fighting right in front of the kid. If you're gonna fight, go out. Go out somewhere and take your battles and take it away from the kid. Don't let them know you're doing it. They know you're doing it. Bad childhood.
Not only that, yes, like. And not YouTube. People on YouTube have a big influence on people today.
Plus, when there's an abusive family and stuff like that, that really gets to a kid. Like, they just learn all the wrong stuff.
But also, when it comes down to, like, and then they see a video, because, like, it's not for their type, I guess.
Yeah, this is another
and then you sit there, like, I hear so many times people say, "Oh, but parents complain at us because we swear." Like, yeah, that's not.
I'll admit this. When it comes down to this, when I do have a kid, I am gonna obviously not let him swear for a while. Like, I'd say whenever he gets to like maybe 14, 16, I don't know, somewhere in there to where he can absolutely control his swearing, not go crazy with a freaking thing like a lot of kids do when they learn how to. But it just, when he control it good enough, I'm like, you're okay, just do it with with plenty of restraint. Don't go crazy with it. But
Yeah, I think also that has with like around the time. Like if
yeah,
you
I mean, I
are
wouldn't censor
like,
the kid because that's another
like
thing about it. Like,
if
that's one thing I hate about a lot of parents these days too. Another little side rant here is just they are so freaking restrictive with half the crap kids do. I mean, I understand in some cases they need to be, but in other cases they really don't. I don't get it.
and that we can go back also to our time. We watched Snow White. We watched Pinocchio. There was no
Yeah.
freaking censorship.
There's
That
no
was like,
sense. We'll just say this with those. It's just like, oh, these are children's stuff. Oh, it's so great. Watch them now. You will see every single bad thing now that all those kids have turned into adults and everything. You'll see all that stuff. Like, let's say this for example. For people who celebrate Christmas, every Christmas day or something or somewhere around there, the 12 days of Christmas, basically people will be like, oh, watch Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Yeah, it's a children's show. It's all great. It is a racist movie. It is racist against the other Rudolph. I mean, other Rudolphs, other reindeer are racist against Rudolph because he has a red nose. Even Santa himself is like, oh, we gotta cover that up and make sure no one knows that he has we gotta cover up and make him not be unique. He gotta make it like everybody else. All this other stuff, like that is just racist. That is terrible. Even the parents were very against him having a red and light up nose. So it's like, you're wanting to teach your kids this?
yeah, and then you have like people today saying like, oh, you can't say the N-word. Like, yeah, but back then they didn't care. They didn't really care.
Well, it was a bad word to begin with, so it's just.
Yeah, but like back then it was like, yeah.
These days people still don't care. I mean, obviously they do and they should, but there are some people that just really don't. They just say it all the freaking time, and I'm just like, can you stop? Like, it pisses me off every time I hear that.
If it's in a, I get it if you take Django Unchained, great movie, and stuff like that. That has a purpose to use that word because it's about slavery. It's about a time where that was used, and why you shouldn't use it today because it has been used under a circumstance that was in a bad side in the end. But people, and then we could take Disney himself. He's a terrible person if you think about it. Great movie making and great series and stuff, like I make great cartoons back in the day, but Walt Disney himself,
not a great person.
No, his brand is like, if you go on his brand,
it's kind of built a little bit on lies, but you
Yeah,
can't really say that
also,
these days without getting sued.
But kids, today you say, "Oh, Disney's so good." No, Disney is not good. It's built on blood, basically, blood and lies and racism and everything. And
I
you
don't
say
know.
that a kid can't watch like a darn person saying the F, like saying fuck, or like gay or stuff like that, and you get pissed. But when you say, but you can let them watch Disney, that is basically a nothing.
It is completely innuendo insanity in Disney movies, especially the classic ones.
Yeah,
but,
like you can let your kids watch that, but you can't let them watch a guy that actually does more for people than you will ever do because he swear. I get it. You don't want your kid to swear. I get it. Fine. It's a good thing they shouldn't swear at too early age. I wouldn't be that kind of guy that stops them if they're young, but I wouldn't say it like this. You shouldn't. You have a free will, but if you want to swear, don't do it too much. Like, fine. If you hurt yourself, fine. Or if you get mad at something, like, oh, I get mad at because I failed too much. Yeah, fine. You gotta swear a lot because you get mad, but that's fine because that means that it's not pointed at anyone.
That depends, really. Depends if you get mad at somebody. But I don't know. Regardless, though, We kind of went a little off end, but
But yeah,
yeah.
4 hours in, and we still hasn't concluded what year it is.
I mean, we're basically all good there. But so random news in the sense of me about to get off. Dog has pooped in the other room. I gotta go clean that, and which means we should go ahead and end this anyway. So great way to end the stream. Thanks, dog. Pooped in
Subscribe
another
to
room.
both of us on YouTube. Very important. Otherwise,
Follow on Twitch as well.
we're gonna
For both of
look
us.
you up and eat all your food.
I don't know about that. I'm not really interested in their food.
You don't know if they have tasty. What if they have tasty food?
Look, if they're willing to hand over some food, I'm all up for grabs. I'm actually pretty hungry right now.
If you're willing.
If you're willing to hand over some food, then good food, then hey, I'm all ears because I'm actually kind of hungry. So.
You're always hungry.
And
if
soup.
there's like-
That's a reference.
I feel like that's a common thing with us when we stream. It's like you're always hungry, and I always have a drink.
That or I'm always thirsty. Most of the time I'm thirsty because I don't have like a drink next to me, or sometimes I do, but I drink it early on. But
Yeah, you drink it before we start.
drink before we start, or I drink it like
It's like
halfway
eating popcorn
in, and I'm stuck in the other half.
You eat popcorn at a movie.
One thing I don't understand. I mean, that's granted. That's why they make them. It's like, why? I'm like, why in the hell is popcorn a thing at the movies? And you're just thinking to yourself, like, well, it makes you thirsty. Therefore, you get a drink. And when you run out of drink, you're still thirsty because of the popcorn. Therefore, you have to go buy a refill. And there's where they get their money.
Marketing.
Pyramid scam, kids. Don't get scammed.
Go eat
Smuggle in your own drinks. Actually, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't. I said smuggle in your own drinks, and I'm like, nah, don't do that.
Actually, in Sweden, they can't stop you from taking some.
Here, you're not supposed to, but at the same time, it's like, well, what can they do when you're already sitting there with it in your hand? Like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, and if you do it professionally, they can't say, "Oh, did you buy it here?" Or like,
Depends on how you did it. Because yeah.
But in Sweden, I don't think they really care. I mean, we're not that much of a marketing thing, but like, yeah, we can go into a movie with like, we can go to the store right. We have a store right over movies here in Sweden, like from where I live.
I'd still kind of, if I get like a drink or something, I would prefer to actually buy it from there, mainly because at the same time it does help the people working there get their money.
Yeah, I get
I mean,
that,
yeah,
but
you
like,
buy a bunch of tickets,
sadly,
but concessions that help some too. That is kind of sad. This is why there's like the places around here that have like discount days, like a Tuesday or something. Usually it's like a Tuesday in a lot of movie theaters around here. But
yeah, that's because there's no one going those days. Like, Tuesday to Thursday, I would say, like,
it's like, discount days. You can get stuff on a discount. Like, oh, that's all great. Anyway.
But that's also because there's like no one going those days because they have actually work and stuff.
I mean, hey, it can still happen. But yeah, anyway, well, usually they end at like 5 in the afternoon, so usually people get off at that point. But anyway, yes.
Actually, too. I'm gonna go to bed also.
We do need to get off. I have a headache, thirsty and hungry, but I'll just deal with thirst, and I have to go clean a dog's poop. So, great way to end a podcast, am I right? So.
See you guys next time.
Whenever that shall be, hopefully in 2 weeks. Hopefully.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Never. Not.
Right.